What? Would he be at the special town
Yeah, but
meeting?
remember how they opened?
Yeah, there's a little pool. I brought
I
extra.
know Ted would be, but I could have sworn that there was a handoff between Sean and the other lady that got in between.
I don't know. I don't think so.
There you go. It's a little sticky. Now you got to push it. Now you got to
No,
push it.
you'll find it. It's a hole. It should find it.
So how's Terry doing since he closed the business?
And you found it right there.
He's all right. He's at the book club tonight.
What? I didn't know about it. Where is it?
I'll tell you about it. The Stallion Book Club moved
Figured it out.
temporarily.
Bruce in here.
Nobody told me.
Hi, Bruce. How you doing?
Hi, Bruce.
Space over here, Bruce, if you want to come over here. Plenty of room. Okay.
All right. It is 7 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order. And we'd like to thank everyone for coming, including our new town administrator, or acting town administrator, I guess. Ted, I'm sorry, I don't even know your last name.
Ted Kozak,
Thank you.
like Kodak camera with a Z, Kozak.
All right, good. All right. Our recording secretary is away on a family emergency, so she will not be here tonight, so Joni will.
So please speak slowly.
Oh, you're good at this. So we have a new updated warrant in front of us, and I think we're going to probably take them out of order because we have people here tonight.
So the stapled one you handed out
Yes.
versus the copied one you
I
made?
just like to make a point that we're going to be using the warrant that was dated 9/4/2018.
But if you see, look in the corner, it does say 10-4 draft.
All right, I'm looking at the actual warrant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I actually
Was
changed
10-4.
This is still a draft form, council's still reviewing it. And I've been working on this with Barbara, and this was our latest draft this morning. Barbara wasn't in today, so I didn't get a chance to double check with her, make sure it's 100%. I mean, the basic facts won't change, you might see a couple of tweaks.
But for the purpose of our records, and if they do change, we need to know what we were referring to when we were doing the discussion.
The number won't change, the numbers themselves won't change, it's just the, might have some grammar changes in there.
It's still,
Legal, correct. And
so how do you want to refer to it so we know what we're talking about?
I think we should refer to it as the 10-4 draft.
Okay, fair enough.
Just quickly, the other sheet is some numbers on it. One side is your certified free cash. And I asked the town accountant if everything was passed, to show what the balance might be at the bottom of the page. So you had the amounts that we know of, to show what you had in the town, before town meeting there at the bottom. That just shows you that to give you an idea.
So when this form shows certified free cash, we did have free cash certified at that
Yes.
level?
Our certified free cash as of last week is 7.38111. The articles as submitted.
I got that. So my question is going to be, last year Barbara provided us a little bit of detail behind that to explain how we got to that level of free cash. What was,
She can do that. I just wanted to give you a
right,
quick
so
ballpark number
if we
tonight.
could just have her forward that at some point so we can see how we got there.
I'm sure she will. And on the second page, I gave an overview real quick of CPA funding. And you'll notice that there's a special town meeting, 2 articles that are being requested. If they are accepted as they are, that's the balance to be in each of those categories. So it's information for you to have.
Okay. We are going to jump around a little bit tonight because we have people here for certain articles. So, Lynn, you're listed first, so if you want to come up, I believe yours is article number 39. Online board and committee database software. So that's
Yes.
for $1,500. So can you tell us what that is?
Correct. So basically, that's a portal that would be helping us with the board and committee membership listing that we have. The town clerk's office keeps track of all the boards and committees and their expiration dates, their resignation dates. So this would be a portal that would help us keep track of that in a much easier fashion than what we're doing right now in an Excel format. They basically will take what we have right now, transfer all the data over, and then they'll keep a yearly maintenance fee of $300. And basically, we'll be able to do reports on that. That'll let us know when the expiration dates are due on a lot of them. We can do all these different types of reports, and it's color-coded and very easily to read.
Does it keep track of things like if, you have to give the open meeting law when they're sworn in, and the conflict of interest law, or the ethics
Right, so
thing
basically,
that we do every 2 years? Would that
right,
keep
so
track of all
basically,
those
the
things?
conflict of interest and all the swearing in, all those dates would be calculated in there, and when people are due, so we can run a report and say, you know, who were due this month for their
Okay.
meeting law or conflict of interest.
Questions? Larry?
I think we all will find it invaluable to have this capability. I was on the Charter Review Committee a couple of years ago, and it was a full-time job to track down, over the years, in some cases, names and what position they held. When you consider that in the charter were non-existent people because they'd moved away or had passed away, and there were town bodies that no longer existed, and you had people who were serving 12 and 15 years and hadn't been sworn in since who knows when, and this will square all of that away.
And also, when you're saying, like, the history of it, Leon had asked when we had somebody resign from a committee, and looking back at when they first came on that committee, basically, I'm having to go through, because I didn't have that in a database. I'm going through books of town reports and trying to find when that person was first on that committee. So this will help us going forward with that, keeping track.
Kevin?
Also, will it follow all these special committees that get created? For instance, basically is the Town Hall and Center Office School Building Committee, right? We've basically been done with our work for a very long time, but the committee's never been dissolved. So it truly still exists, and the people are still members of that committee. So we'll attract stuff like that too, so that we can send a report to the Board of Selectmen that says, you know, this committee should be dissolved because its work is done.
Correct, exactly. So, I mean, and that's the thing, like, right now, you know, coming into the town clerk's office, you know, being there for 2 years, we've taken whatever databases we've had and just compiled them all, because there were many different databases concerning that, with different boards and committees, and some committees were totally missing. So going back to reports and things like that. So we've done a really good job at this point going forward, and we're hoping, you know, just to move forward with it now and have that history now begin.
Is there any part of this that would, the front end would be available to the public? Would it make access to the information?
It would be available to other departments, not so much. What we'll do is we'll put that information in a report for the town report. So that would be available for the public, but the actual database would not be. It would just be internal.
One of my concerns was keeping all the information on the town's website up to date, because they list lots of different committees and all the members. If it could go towards that end, improving, keeping that current, that would be.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is up to the different departments to keep their boards and committees current, because they know their departments. You know, and
So do the individual departments have access to the town
Yeah.
website individually, and they go in and make the changes?
they will
Also,
not
then
be,
they have to go
no.
through you.
They would have to go through us, and that's what we're doing now, is having everybody go through us to give us any changes.
So I think you're going back, you're talking about a database that, as the town clerk, you would use to maintain for the history and the current status, who's on there.
Correct.
If you're talking about the web pages for like the planning board, Concom, each one of those departments has to update its own web page. So if
Webpage.
a board member changes, it's up to the planner or the agent, the department head over there to update its web page, while Lynn is also updating her database of these changes.
My question is, do they have direct access to go in and change their webpage and update
Yes.
it? Or do they have to go through a vehicle
Some-
to do that, like the new IT guy?
Most departments do have access to their own webpage. There are certain members of the town hall that have access to everybody's page. to update certain things.
So who goes in and makes the change when a member of a committee or a board changes?
That would be the department head.
The department head would be able to
Right.
go in and do
Because
that.
basically, at this point, and Leon's been doing a fabulous job with it going forward, and hopefully, I'm sure Ted will too, is letting us know when people resign and people are reappointed to boards and committees. Because a lot, we have a book this thick of boards and committees, and you know yourself, there's always a new board coming forward. We don't know necessarily who is actually on that being appointed. So we get that information through the Board of Selectmen's office, and then we place it into the portal.
Have you seen a demonstration of this?
We have seen a webinar on it, myself and the assistant. And basically, I was waiting for the IT gentleman to come on board and also for the town administrative secretary, so we could all view it again. But Leon wanted us to try to get it in for the special town meeting.
So I was actually going to ask you if you spoke to the IT person, but that.
Yes, I have.
So is he on board with all of this? Does
He has not actually seen it yet, but he's aware of this.
So is there a chance that after, like, he might have a different idea? Or, is this something that you'll take care of before special town meeting and it's voted on? Like, in other words, is there a chance that it might get voted on and accepted, but then you might turn around and say, you know what, he has a better idea, let's do this?
He didn't say whether he had a better idea or not.
Or a
on
different
this.
idea,
Yeah.
not better,
No.
different.
And basically, I mean, he's aware of it, but we haven't really spoken a lot on this. We've had some other.
I guess, long way of asking, I just want to make sure that this is what you guys want to go forward with. Of course, having the IT person on board with it and understanding it, of course,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any chance that it could fall through,
Kevin?
I guess is my point.
I'd just like to expand on that, on Joni's point too, though. Is the software provided by any of our existing software providers, so it's already compatible with all the systems we have, so it's just an easy fix, or is it gonna be something that's totally separate and standard?
It should be an easy fix. I mean, the company that I spoke to, they didn't seem that it would be any issues, like with upgrading our current system to accommodate this, so I don't see where.
You don't, I know Visions is the.
Yeah, that's a big, this is
No,
not
no,
as
but
big
there's
as.
another system we have from another
Oh,
provider.
Acela.
Does all the- Yeah, so is it compatible with these things, so it's an easy plug-in? Or is it a standalone system that, it's a separate login that you have to get into, or?
It would be a separate login, like our town, dog licensing program, all of our different programs we have, you have to log in to that system.
I think what you're saying is it's not an integrated ERP type system, that she's got separate.
I mean, many towns
Standalone
and committees, I
programs
mean,
for each one
many
of these.
towns utilize this type of system, so it's not something
I'm not
that.
saying, I'm just wondering how in the long term it fits in with where we're going and where we're at, or vice versa there.
I get what he's saying.
So
I'm not
Is
really.
it going to just be, are we going to have like 9,000 different
It's just separate
little
systems
separate
that will never
systems?
talk
Right,
to each
right, right.
other. and
Are they going to be
They all have
integrated into
separate
one?
providers and separate
Right.
service contracts and
Right,
Well,
separate everything.
right.
but like if you're talking about like the Acela program, like that Gene's working with right now for the permitting, something like that, but that's a whole different animal. I mean, this is boards and
that's-
committees.
That's where I'm going.
That's,
They're
right,
all
that's
different animals.
that's a totally different animal. I mean, I haven't really seen it yet. I just know that's something that, across the street, they're gonna be utilizing it more than I would be utilizing it, because I don't do a lot of permitting. I mean, basically, it's through the Board of Health, the Building Department, Conservation, Planning, with their protocol of starting out a business and, the progress on that business or
Yeah, no, I
thing.
understand.
So
what you're-
that's a totally different animal. This is just a software program, basically like our dog licensing program.
Okay, and so there's no questions of compatibility with anything else we already have, but there's no, but at this point, we don't know, because they haven't talked to the
Yeah.
IT guy.
Not that I'm aware of.
So to Joni's question, if we fund this at town meeting, you talk to the IT person, and there's a better idea, you don't have to move forward with this, you can adopt the better idea, assuming it doesn't need
Sure,
another
yeah,
town meeting
yeah,
warrant.
definitely.
But I'll just point out, You talked about taking information from different databases. I assume some of those databases are just handwritten sheets of paper in a file somewhere.
No, we do
that-
have.
That you've been pulling
At the
together.
town clerk's office, we do have a
Right.
good database now on our computer.
You're pulling it from one, now you're going to another. Hopefully, this becomes a long-term investment and not just something we're changing out.
Right.
3 years down the road with, there's something, fancier or whatever, so. But it's a small expenditure other than the ongoing $300 a year.
Right, it's like our dog
maintenance fee.
licensing program. Basically, there's a maintenance fee that you have to pay every year.
Alrighty.
That's not noted in the subsection.
Any other questions? Oh, is that a bug?
Yeah, we got the window open, so we may attract some.
Oh, yes.
And I do have one follow-up, because I was just writing down the financial use. Is there a training session provided just when they install?
Yes,
it?
they will, and basically, they're gonna take our information and input it into their program. So basically, we don't have to do any of that
So
input.
they populate it? Is that
They will
the-
populate it into the program, so, which is a big help.
That's not a bat, is it?
No.
No, it's just a very big bug, don't
Big
pay
knob.
attention to it.
State bug.
And I guess the only other thing that I would be concerned with, just because of the discussion on the integration and all the various databases, you will be responsible for maintaining it, right? And so everybody has to go through, so it's really only as good as the information you're given,
Exactly.
right? And so there's a little bit of a, you're always gonna get that, I suppose. There's always a little bit of a concern when there's a manual component.
Exactly, because,
somebody
we have to,
doesn't
like
tell
I said
you.
earlier, we have to know who resigns, who comes on board, who's,
But I guess once you put everybody in there and once the information is in there, then it's good. But getting the information in there is a gray area, because you have to assume everybody's gonna tell you.
Well, and we've been, like I said, we've been working on this, since I came on board, and, we've brought this information to all the various departments to make sure that all this information is correct. All these people are in, the planning department, all these people are on the planning board, design review board, zoning board. They are all up to date with all their information.
So you do
So
have-
each department has checked their information to make sure that that is correct.
Okay, so
And
that-
it's the upkeep, like I said,
But there's
Leon
only
has done a
two
wonderful.
sources for that.
process.
What? There's only two sources for who gets on boards and committees. One is town elections, which you run and control, so you know who got elected, who's no longer elected. Or people are appointed to committees, which happens through the town administrator and board of selectmen. And, as they go, and the town moderator when we do the finance committee. But as those two limited entities make appointments, they know they need to notify you because you need to swear them in. So
Right.
the information should flow to you. Somebody resigns, they don't necessarily provide the notice or doesn't get down, there may be a lapse in that. But there should be a pretty steady process of who's new to a board or a committee in place.
I guess I was going to get to the question.
Okay.
Is there a process in place to ensure that all the information is given to you? And it sounds like
There
the
is, yeah.
departments are supposed to be doing their own due diligence to get that to you.
Right, and like I said, we do, make sure that the departments look at the database, make sure that all this information is correct, and if it is not correct, let us know, and we'll make those changes.
Any other questions?
I have a lot more technical ones, but they're not gonna get answered. so.
You can keep them for the IT guy.
Are you ready to vote on it, or do you want to hold it for a while? We don't have that long, remember.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Would you rather wait?
I'm with Larry. I can see the benefit for this software completely. It's got lots of benefits. I'm just, is it another database technology we're introducing into all the other stuff the town's using? Again, how does it fit into the overall IT plan of the town? And we don't know that yet.
You're exactly right. There is this to consider. It is a management, not a finance topic.
It is if you spend $1,500 for something that can't be used.
The selectmen and the town administrator manage. We're simply the last stop from a financial standpoint and the financial implications before it goes to the voters. you have to rely on other people to do other things.
Are you ready to accept the motion?
I am ready to accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the town meeting that we approve Article 39 for $1,500 for the purchase of online board and committee database software.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Well, let's just say, to shorten that, isn't a recommendation that we approve the article as written? You put a lot of
Sure.
background in that, but in the
That's what
end,
he
we're asking
said.
that we're doing it. Okay.
I heard approve.
Wrote.
I heard approve the article.
Recommend approve as written. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I heard that.
With that
So noted.
clarification, yep, I'm ready.
Do you have any, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining. So that's, I think we're all here, so 8-1-0. And that was Kevin. Okay.
There was an opposition?
Yes, Kevin.
I'm not opposed to its purpose, I just want a better
I
understanding of how it's being
understand. I
implemented.
thought about that too, Kevin. I
I can give you some
understand.
information on it if you like.
Yeah, please.
I'll make some copies and I'll bring them over to you. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks,
for your
Lynn.
time.
Let's see, next up is Greg. I don't know, that seems odd, Greg, that you come second. Don't you usually have a lot of stuff?
Which article is Greg? Oh,
Which
he's
article
got
are
he's got
you?
a bunch? Do you have a bunch, Greg? Do you have a bunch of articles here?
No, 2.
Oh, okay.
It's not bad.
Wells and
Well,
utilities, or?
42 and 43, is that
42
it?
and 43.
Oh, that's not so bad. Okay. Why don't we start with Article 42?
Yep. 42 is, we cleaned it this year, and it needs a new pitless adapter in the well. We have 2 wells, well 5 and well 4, are submersible pumps that have one of these parts in it, and well 1 and 3 do not. They're vertical shaft impeller pumps, so it's different. But after the cleaning, the guy pulled it out and put it back in, ran it. He noticed there was blow-by, significant blow-by on it, so he couldn't stay. He had other places to go, but he said, I will come back in the next week or so. Sometimes if you pick it up and spin it and put it back down, it might reseat itself and work. So he did that. It was 2 or 3 weeks later he came back and did it, and it worked. It improved it reduced the blow-by on the part, but it didn't eliminate it, so it needs replacement. Now, what our real problem is, well 4 is a seasonal well that goes on actually October 1st and runs through the winter to the following year when a stream gauge dictates it gets shut off. And so right now, currently, with wells 1, 3, and 4 running, we don't have to rely on well 5. But in the spring, once 4 gets shut off, and if 5 is down, then the town's gonna be relying on 2 wells. Now, when I first got here, there was 3 wells in town. 1 was offline. 2 were running. 1 was running 24 hours a day, and the other one ran 20 hours a day. So there was no place, really no easy way to service them or, work on them. We did get through that time, but if one of those wells went down at that time, 23 years ago, we would have been out of water, which never happened. But this time, one of those wells has been altered. It had the original casing from 62 or 1 or 2 had a hole in it, so we had to reline the well. That actually reduces the diameter of the well, and when you do that, you get a loss of not capacity, but a loss of volume that you can suck out of the well. So at best now, hydraulically, we have more residents. We'd probably be running them both 24 hours a day, and with the common demand, I don't know if we'd have enough water. So we really would like to fix that, and now is the time, for us, now is the time to fix it this fall. Then when the spring comes on, well 4 goes offline, we still have 3 wells. There's no shortage of water for the town, and
Questions?
Greg, is this, the pumping system in this well is different from the other wells?
Yeah, the motors, what on a submersible, it's just like, really just like a home well. Your well pump is down at the bottom of your
Okay.
water pipe. 3 and 5, 5 and 4 are that way. And the reason they're that way is because the well it's a satellite well, it's outside the building, the actual well house.
Yep.
Wells 1 and 3, the well is actually inside the building. So that has a vertical, it has a motor on top with a vertical shaft
Okay.
down to impellers and bowls. So the only thing that's in the well are impellers and bowls, and they go out of bounds. Each one has a benefit, and each one has a little. The vertical stuff, once the bearings wear, it can throw it out of alignment, and you get really bad vibrations, which will wipe out a 75 horsepower motor, which is an expensive deal. So the ones down in the a little more susceptible to lightning strikes and things like that. The ones that are down in the well and.
But they're all electric well?
They're all electric.
Electricity.
Yep.
Did you say well number 4 had a similar part?
Well, it has, I won't say it's a similar part, because you're looking at a different motors and different things, but it has a pitless adapter, but not the same part.
Thank you.
So you're replacing and repairing a part versus, you're repairing a part versus replacing the unit and the pump itself?
The pump's fine, it's just that this goes between the pump and the column, and that's what we gotta replace. Yep.
So this is not is it not a Band-Aid fix on a problem that we need a larger scale repair down the road? This is just normal wear and tear over the course of time?
It's a wear and tear thing, and.
No reason to expect another major, an impending major repair
Right.
in the near future.
No, it was just, you clean every 3 years. The screens are, they're slotted screens, and they get clogged with iron and manganese, which is what the town removes. And so you have to pull out the guts of the well, you put acids in, you flush it, the screen gets clean, you pump that stuff out, neutralize it, put the well back in. And what happens is, you can tell by how dirty it's getting, is the yield, it gets reduced significantly. It could go from 250 gallons a minute down to 50%. So every 3 years, it's like a 3-year schedule. We clean them to keep that yield up in each individual well.
Kevin?
Then that's when we notice it.
Okay, so since this money is coming from, a special fund.
Right.
Right, the water fund, what does this leave the reserve fund balance in that fund? And what
Well, it's over $1 million.
So this will still leave it over $1 million?
Yeah.
And it's $1 million of how big of a budget?
It's around, water is 1.5, something like that, 1.6.
I didn't tell you that, hold on.
Right around.
So we have more than almost 100% in reserve? of what-
Well, yeah, but Kevin, you look at, we
$1.4
were just talking
every
about it,
year.
we were just talking a water line, right?
Yeah.
And that you know about, and it's an $8 million project. We got $2 million worth, governed or granted by the state. You take that cost, you take the 2 million off, and you divide it by 74 people, you're looking at significant betterments. So, and then when you pick up today's paper, coupled with the ruling that the judge had today, which wasn't in the town of Sturbridge's best interest, I can tell you that. You need, every project you do is, it's not $1 million, or $1 million seems like a lot of dollars. In water, sewer, and
It's expensive, it goes like this, that's why I wanted
it's
to make
something
sure
that
you
just
had enough.
disappears, it's nothing. And when I got here, it was less than $100 grand in it, and you couldn't even have bought a motor, if you had one of those water wells go bad, and you couldn't even have replaced the motor that was in the thing. So, I'm not saying we're not in a good place, we're in a good place, but we're not in a great place considering how much stuff costs. And, you're looking at existing infrastructure, 100-year-old stuff, you're gonna have to get that on a replacement schedule, and,
So if
you
you
know.
could just.
So the yearly, this year's budget for the water department is 1.4 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's good. So then I would make a motion to approve Article 42 as written.
Any further discussion?
I do. I have a question.
That's okay, you can do it in discussion.
Yes. That's really probably what. how
Hey,
we should
I
do it.
was just curious, Greg, who's doing the work? Who is, the 11 grand, who is,
It's,
what does it cover?
There's a couple.
I got it here. This is not the one I'm looking for. It's, I believe it's Sullivan Drilling. It's a well,
So it's a local well company that,
it's
that
a well, a major well company, you know, for,
that's who repairs stuff like this?
yeah.
All right.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, it's FG Sullivan is the official name.
Thank you.
Down the end there.
Bruce?
So this was discovered in the maintenance, routine maintenance that you had
In the,
scheduled.
in the cleaning process.
So you didn't really see reduced volume too bad.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. What'll happen is, if the adapter blows, what happens is the column of water, the pump will go on, the column of water will go in. As soon as the pump shuts off, there's a secondary problem here. When the pump shuts off, the water will bleed back out of this poor seal, which creates an air column in the well, and then the pump goes on again, and all of a sudden it's an air hammer. So then you're gonna get broken water lines. So if what I'm saying, if this doesn't get replaced, well 4 comes offline, this well has gotta come offline, because we're gonna start breaking water mains. So
What I was-
if you don't do one thing, something else is gonna happen, and this is one of the bad parts of this is, it's gonna bleed that water back into the well, which doesn't hurt anything, other than creating an air column in your system, and as soon as that pump goes on and squeezes that air tight, it creates what they call a hammer, and a hammer, you can get it to 2,000 PSI, 1,000 PSI, and blow the pipe up is what happens, and it's,
What I was thinking was that it was kind of lucky that you got it during the routine maintenance.
oh, yeah, I mean, it's the two part is you lose yield, so you wanna get the yield back, to maintain it. But, when you do that on a 3-year cycle, you do find bad bearings on the other type of wells, you'll get a bad bearing, and what happens is the impellers hit the outside of the well shaft, the bowls, and creates wear, and then you gotta replace those. So, just because the thing is cleaned, it's a kind of a routine maintenance thing, but everything's inspected as it comes out and goes back in for the cleaning process, so it's a two-part benefit, I guess. You get to inspect what's going on down there, because you can't see it. And if there's any adverse wear or anything that's broken, it becomes apparent, so, it's a benefit.
This is going to benefit both wells because you'll be able to do number 4 in the spring.
Well, number 4 will get shut off in the spring, and then this will stay online, so, and we know that's gonna happen. That's just the way the permit is, the way we're permitted, and, we just need to get this done before it goes offline.
Thank you.
I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Staying. 9-0. Okay, we're done with that one. And then, are you also 43?
Yep. We had a, you probably are aware, we had a perchlorate investigation, and it was funded, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, I believe, but, we went through the course of that, looking for the source of, you know, there again, for some odd years, we never had a reading. Then all of a sudden, one cropped up, so we started, this really is to find the source of it, and it's usually related to fireworks, dynamite, explosions, something like that. So blasting, black powder, fireworks, anything like that that has black powder in it or powder in it, it's kind of found there. So we set up a row of tests, like three sections deep, on the westerly side of the sewer plant and the condos, and worked out toward the wells. And really didn't, I mean, we had a couple of hits, but what the real issue is, if there's a plume out there above, certainly a lot higher or higher than what we have, we might have to do something on the treatment side of the plant. So we can't say that we found that yet, but we want to look on the easterly side of the condos just to see if, or in the easterly side of the sewer, to see if there is a higher concentration on the easterly side that could at some point be conveyed over toward the wells through the fissures in the rock. So if we don't find it over there, I don't, you know, it's not so high that we have to shut everything down, but it's high enough to certainly be concerned about. So, but if there is a higher concentration of contamination someplace else and we do find it, we might have to change the treatment system in the water plant. So this is really the second phase. Of the first phase is completed. Nothing major was identified, but we want to continue and you know, continue on the opposite side of the ridge and see what's going on.
Kevin?
Just a quick, the process is you just drilling like a pilot well, just you take a water sample and...
Well, yeah, this one's a little different. This one, they're gonna put in more permanent, they're only small, they're a small diameter, you know, this is only like an inch tube, inch and a half tube, but the first test, they went through, they dropped the tube, we had to cut roads through the woods, and to get it's a track machine, they get the track machine down, they put the well point in, they took a sample, and then they pulled it out. These are gonna be 2 or 3 permanent ones, so
they're monitoring wells, basically.
so they're basically monitoring wells, and locations will, you know, vary, but
So who does this testing? Is it Veolia?
it's,
Or is it someone?
no, it's Geosphere, they're out of New Hampshire, and in conjunction with Tig and Bond.
Okay, so it's completely separate from the water department.
This is completely separate. This is, you know, outside of the scope of anything that Veolia could. I mean, we certainly can test for perchlorate, but to do an investigation and to actually, you know, for them to figure out, you know, how it's getting rooted and something like that, you need engineering for that, and that's not really there.
Bruce?
The summary mentions DEP requirement. Could you comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a study. The study was requested by the DEP, and you know, and we've had meetings with them and talked about the first phase of it, and we, you know, the engineer said that we like to continue on, and they certainly they were out actually this week doing some it's a sanitary survey they call, so they came out to do the sanitary survey in water, and they were asking about it, and we said that, you know, the money is up on the special, and hopefully it gets approved, and we get the word on the 29th that it's approved.
So the test locations, you're not just figuring and guessing, whatever. This engineering firm is kind of looking at your wells, are trying to figure out where the sources and the aquifers are that are feeding those, looking at topography out there to pick spots.
Yeah, well, it's concentrated around, you know, Public Works and the condos, because there was blasting activity there. And there also was some testing done in the village, because there's fireworks, and there's also militia, you know, black powder guns, and they, you know, have a raid at each other. And so there was essentially, in the vicinity of the wells, there was 2 potential sources of contamination that would make sense. So, yeah, now you look to the north, you're looking at Cedar Lake. That's a gravel basin, and was there a lot of blasting done around Cedar Lake? The answer is no. Beyond that is upper, you know, Allen Road, New Boston Road, Cedar Street. Have there been large-scale developments or projects up there? The answer is no. So, The activity, what we're looking for is activity in the vicinity of the wells, and those are the two logical points. Now, if, like I said, if you know, we go through the second phase of the study and we don't find this, you know, plume that's 5, 6, 8 times higher, 10 times higher, then, you know, that's one thing. But if we do find it, it will alter how we treat. And so that's really, we got to find it first, and if we don't find it, then we'll have to work through what they want. But if we do find something that's, you know, a lot more intense than what it is now, it's going to change the treatment process.
Tony?
So I was going back to the phases you had mentioned. So this will cover phase 2?
Yep.
So actually in what you just said, if the concentration comes back higher, does that mean that phase 2 will be expanded? Will you need additional monies to cover anything you know?
It might. It depends on how definitive it is. If it comes in and you know, the source is, you know, a definitive source, then we probably wouldn't need additional testing, but we would need to alter treatment, which means, you know, a project, you know. It's
right. Now
probably a building addition and a different type. It's probably charcoal filtration is how he's going to get rid of it. But when you're looking at whole-scale charcoal filtration for the town, it's not going to be a small or an osmosis rig. It's one or the other. So it's not going to be a small undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Osmosis is.
Wouldn't that remove your chlorine?
Well, you could post, you know, post-treat it after. Yeah.
Well,
But
so
if,
would
you know,
there be?
osmosis is a very expensive. I mean, it's.
I'll take
really
your word
expensive.
for it. Does that mean that, so if all goes well with this phase 2, does it end here, or is there a phase 3?
You know, it goes, the report will be, one initial report's been, you know, outlined from the engineer to the DEP. The second one will go through the same process. We're still gonna have to wait for a response from them, so is it, you know, can I say this is definitively end? The answer is no.
Okay,
No. We still gotta go through them.
got it.
Anything further? Is there a motion, Kevin?
I'll make a motion to approve the article as written.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It's 9-0.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming, Greg.
Yeah, thank you.
Next is Heather from the Senior Center. She seems to be accompanied by Ashley, I don't know. I think you're just the last. You're just Article 53, right? Heather, the last one, Senior Center flooring?
Yes.
That's $10,042 for the second floor. First of all, what is the flooring there?
It
I don't
is a
remember.
very short piled rug. And
Sorry, which article?
Oh, 53.
53.
Dead last.
Thank you.
And it's actually, it's a safety and liability issue. In the 6 months I've been here, I have already had 3 incidences where one of them I actually had to call first responders because people are trying to exercise or do stuff up there, and one lady actually fell and hit her head on a chair. And there are 2 other incidences where I really wanted to call for help and they refused, and that's not counting the incidences where people have tripped and fallen that I didn't hear about till after the fact because they did not want me to know about it. But we do a lot of activities on that second floor. Depending on the day, we have exercising 2 to 3 times a day. We have our support groups up there. We show movies. We have our memory cafe up there. So you're talking about seniors who different levels of ability right down to seniors who are using wheelchairs and walkers and canes, and it's a safety hazard. It really is for them.
What is the first floor flooring?
It's a hard floor.
It's hard floor.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Hard to
tile.
remember.
Sorry, I must have been not listening, but did you say that, so this the replacement is for both floors?
No, just the second
No, just the
floor.
second. I was just
Okay.
asking what the
Yeah,
first floor was.
just the second floor.
Right, no, well, it's not clear in the summary either, so it's for the second floor?
It's for the second floor, the main hallway. The main hall. It's not for like the side room. It's not for the hallways. It's just
okay.
for the main hall on the second floor. Yeah, the great hall on the second floor.
So the current carpeting that you have up there, is it a thicker pile than what is on the floor in front of us here?
Slightly. It's more of an older style carpet. Like
Is
this
it
is more.
still that like slate blue colored stuff?
It is.
Yeah.
So how old, do you know how old it is?
I looked at the records and couldn't find anything specific.
It was probably there when the building was renovated. It's been a while.
Which was when?
Oh, God. Joe Rokas was like.
Jen was the planner working on that project. Yeah, Jen was working on a grant to get the thing going. That's 25 years.
All right, well, okay. I guess it's time, right?
So I guess I'm looking for the harder vinyl flooring is going to be a more safer and sure-footed type of flooring versus what you currently have?
Yes.
You're talking about doing this because of safety and tripping and falling, not because of
Correct.
age and degradation of the carpet, so.
It's been well maintained through the years, so there are some thin spots in it, but we've kept it clean and well taken care of. But as the needs of that room have changed and they're hosting more activities there, the proposed material is a rolled vinyl wood look type flooring with anti-slip properties in it also. So it serves as if they were gonna get, they will go on the floor, do their yoga, lie down, it has some cushion and padding in it there. And versus even if they had a luncheon and they spilled food, they have the ability to mop it up now.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the long-term view for the building? Where we're talking about replacing a flooring in a building where we're looking at its
We just
fitness for
replaced
purpose.
windows.
And we just replaced, windows, we always said we could reuse in there or move out and put in another building. I don't know, I can move the vinyl flooring into another location.
The reality of that is, it could take years before we are able to even, think of putting up a new senior center or renovating the current one. And I'm concerned about the seniors' safety now. Years down the road, anything can happen between now and then. So,
And it's not like that building would necessarily come offline either. It could be,
Right.
if they move entirely to a new building, that might be still used for something else.
I was hoping they would say it could be
Correct.
repurposed or could
well,
be
yes,
repurposed
yes.
for other needs. And
I would
it's not
certainly
gonna
hope
sit
that
like
if we
Brookfield Road,
left,
right?
yeah, I would hope if we
Well,
left
I
our
hope it's
senior
not.
center to go somewhere else, that somebody else would want that building to do something extraordinary with.
Well, the other part is we always talk about being space challenged in this building and the center office building. Primarily, if in the future there was another decision, that type of flooring could be used in either flex spaces or office spaces too, because it would be a neutral type flooring.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to comment on the different funds. I think it's great. So you have a state formula grant and then a Timeless Treasures gift
Mhm.
account. What is that?
So the
That's-
COA board had started the Timeless Treasures account, I'm not exactly sure, within the last few years. And they actually get donated jewelry,
Oh, that's right,
scarves, things like that,
yes.
and they sell it there. And they've just been accumulating their little account, and they wanted to do something to
Wow.
help the senior center.
That's great.
So,
Someday
yeah.
you'll be old enough to go there. and you'll be able to see it.
I know, Jared and myself, I know.
They like this.
Jared's a long way off.
Do we love visitors?
I don't think we put you in the same category. I'm
Hey.
I was trying.
Well, look at the bright side. When you're old enough to come to the senior center.
With the stains of
Which
the
will be
carpet.
before Jared, apparently.
Yeah, how is that, Jared, that that carpet
You can come visit us.
They like visitors of all ages.
Yes, we do.
No, I think that's great. Good for you guys for getting that
Thank
as
you.
part of the flooring.
Kevin?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Article 53 as written.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? That is 9-0. Thank you for.
It was a lot easier than you're used to, wasn't it?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And the last person tonight, though, that does not mean that the last article to consider necessarily, is Article 45. We'd like to have Tom come up, the police chief. This is on the full-time police officer, school resource officer for, I believe it's for Tantascwa School District. And this is in the amount of,
There you go.
let's see, altogether. The total is 66,524, and that is broken up into 53,643 for police salaries and wages, 3,911 police overtime, 8,350 for supplies, police supplies, and 620 for purchase of services. So I think that we probably have a lot of questions, so I don't know if you want to make an introductory statement, Chief, and thank you for coming, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the Finance Committee with respect to my request for the special town meeting. Early in the summer, after school got out, I received a call from the Tantascwa superintendent and also a call from the chairman of the Tantascwa Regional School Committee requesting to speak to myself and the other 4 chiefs from the Tantascwa Regional School District regarding the implementation of the School Resource Officer program up at the campus of Tantascwa Senior and Junior High School. As some of you know, and some of you may not know, this has been a goal. This has been an on and off situation at the Tantascwa Senior and Junior High School with the committee for many, many years. In 2013, the town put into place a school resource officer, and that officer has been working full-time with the K-6 students at Burgess Elementary. Burgess, when the opportunity arose, the town said, well, we'll take care of it and we'll pay for the officer. And we were told by the school committee up at Tantascwa that they, at the time, weren't ready for that program. So the program remained in the elementary school and has been quite successful with the officer that's there handling the K-6 students. And we've been very fortunate to have such a successful program there. So I was optimistic to go to the meeting with the school administration, and we got together. I understood what they were looking for. They spoke to me about some thoughts with respect to having the program up there, what it would entail, what the commitment would be like from the various communities, etc. Some of the concerns that were older, but still concerns with the school committee and with the membership at the administration level at the school. So we had meetings with all 5 chiefs from the district, and I also had side meetings with those same chiefs, and we pulled together our thoughts and came across with a different approach to the school committee than we had in the past. Before it was, here's a school resource officer, here are the benefits of the program, here's, you know, what we have to offer, and, you know, hopefully you'll agree and take on the program. Well, it was more complicated than that and more complex. And this time, the approach that we chose to mirror was one from emergency management, where we go with the whole community approach. We realized that from all 5 Tantascwa communities, we have children that start out in kindergarten in each one of the elementary schools and travel through 6th grade and then go to the junior high school in 7th grade and end up at Tantascwa on the Tantascwa campus until they graduate. But each one of those kids all end up here at some point. So our thought was, we're responsible as a team of 5 police departments to provide these services equally across the entire district. The district is the district, and all the regulations and rules and standards that apply to the students and the staff and the faculty at these schools are all regulated through the Union 61 and through the Tantasco Regional School District. So why not have our school resource officer approach come from that same mindset? So with this whole community approach, our thought was that why not have a unified front and pull together our resources for this program. And we had brought an outline forward to the administration showing where we would work together to develop a program that would provide the services, standardize the approaches of safety in all the schools, standardize the policies, standardize the responses, integrate officers from each one of the communities into all the schools, whether it's elementary, junior, or senior high schools, and have the buy-in from all the communities and not just make it a Sturbridge issue. However, as we being the largest community, it was my opinion that we should be the hub of this program, and that if we put a full-time police officer up at the Tantasco Junior and Senior High School, that would be the base of operation, if you will, for the school resource officer program in its entirety. And that program would go to the elementary schools in Holland, Brimfield, or Wales, Brookfield, Sturbridge, and as well as having trained school resource officers from the other communities integrated into our programs, as we would be, as our police officer would be integrated into their programs, because it would be standardized, so that we could have a full-time officer up at the campus between the junior and senior high school for those 5 grades that are up there, full-time, 40 hours a week. And the smaller communities, some of which don't have full-time police departments, that could dedicate a certain amount of time each week to co-teach, to coexist with our resource officer and share those services up there, so that we're providing coverage at the junior and senior high school, we're providing coverage at their elementary schools. And we thought that by having this whole community approach and having as much as we could get out of those communities participate in this, that it would be a more successful approach to providing the true school resource officer, the true service that we intended to provide to the entire district, and not have Sturbridge experience it from grade K through 12 students only. It's that the district experiences it. So when we get kids from Holland, they're not getting into a new program in 7th grade that they've never seen before, or no program at all, that the officer in Holland who's worked very hard at developing a program disappears when they get to 7th grade. So we think that this concept of a whole community approach to this, sharing our resources, having a commitment. I can't speak for the other communities. We have some suggestions. We have some suggestions that we're working on with the administration of the Tantasco School District, so that we, so I do have the backing of the police departments in those communities saying to me that they will provide officers, will work out a schedule to the best that they can, and that they're going to have to go back to each one of their communities and dedicate hours and funds for their officers to participate. But it isn't our, a largest chunk of those students are in Sturbridge, and I feel that we have the responsibility to be the hub of this program. And I think that once this program gets off the ground, and I think it will be not a unique program, but be one that I haven't seen anywhere else in the Commonwealth at this time. And I think that it'll satisfy many needs of the education community that we have. I mean, just those campuses alone, there's close to 2,000 students, staff, and faculty up there, and they deserve the attention of full-time police services, as well as the ability to actually tap into that resource officer for exactly what it's needed for, and that's to be a resource and to be a conduit, to be a teacher, to be a mentor, and all the other benefits that go along with that program. So as the school year grew closer, we met more frequently, to the point where I was able to get a seat before the bylaw committee, the bylaw and policy committee, and the grant committee. And I pretty much told them the same thing that I told you, and the same approach that I was giving here, and they unanimously voted because they were tasked out by their committee to become a subcommittee to research this, and they're bringing back to the full committee their recommendations to adopt the concept of a school resource officer program for Tantascwa. I have to go there on the 16th, and I hope that when I leave there on the 16th that I'll have the support of the Tantascwa School Committee for this program, as I hope that I have your support tonight, and at our special town meeting for the addition of a full-time school resource officer for the Tantascwa Regional School District.
So Tantascwa has not yet actually voted, the full committee?
No, they have not.
You use the term.
That is, the meeting is, I'm sorry, the meeting's on the 16th.
16th, okay.
Of October?
Yes.
Yes.
So you use the terms community, unified front, pooled resources. What are the other communities bringing in terms of support for this program at this stage?
Their commitment to providing trained school resource officers to co-teach, to co-participate in the program, where I never had a commitment to them before, from them before. We've never discussed this as a group, as taking on the task wholly as opposed to individually.
Not just a Sturbridge officer up there, the other communities will be.
I'm hoping that Brimfield, if they can, and this is all hypothetical, if they can afford 2 hours 1 week, I get 2 hours of, I should say but the district gets 2 hours of Brimfield to assist our resource officer for that week up at Tantascwa. And if Brookfield provides 2 hours, and if Wales provides 2 hours, and Holland provides 2 hours, we have, that additional time of a trained school resource officer there participating at the junior and senior high school.
You staffing this with existing resources, or is this a new position?
This will be a new position.
Right now, Burgess has a program. Do any of the other elementary schools do it? Are you saying that the goal is for all of the elementary schools to have the same education to the children during those first 6 years, or 7, including kindergarten? And is each town going to then have to approve that program, or is this program you're talking about going to educate the other 4 towns with the resource officer at the elementary school level?
The other towns don't have the capacity to have a full-time officer in their schools, nor do they have elementary schools that are nearly the size, or anywhere near the size of the one that we have. They have their own programs in place, and the whole idea behind this is to establish a standardized program so that what we're teaching and what we're offering to Brimfield is the same thing that we're offering to Wales, and the same thing, and we're going to mirror it off of what we're doing in Sturbridge here now. And so that they may not be able to commit to it for 40 hours, however, they can commit to it for a certain number of hours each week in their respective elementary schools. And we're going to help each other with the different teachings in the elementary schools as well.
So the goal will be the continuity, but I guess my question is, can the other towns afford to provide that because they don't have the same resources that we do, and are we going to pick the slack up so that the Brimfield child who enters into 7th grade has had the exact same experience as the Sturbridge child entering into 7th grade?
I won't be able to answer that I don't know how the other communities are going to respond to their respective police chiefs when the proposition is brought before them. I know that if this is done, if this is done as we envision it, we're hoping that the other towns are going to see the benefits of it and provide the funding, though it may not be the same as what Sturbridge is providing, but they will provide funding so that their elementary school kids are getting involved in the program just as, and hopefully they all partake in the program. So while I have the commitment of the other chiefs, I don't have the financial commitments of the other towns.
Okay, one final question, if you guys don't mind. If we go forward with this, and Tantascwa doesn't approve it, or if we go forward with it and they do, but the other towns aren't going to jump on board, does that mean that only Sturbridge is going to be funding this program for the junior high and the senior high?
Essentially, yes, for this fiscal year, but Sturbridge can choose to not fund it next fiscal year. However, my thoughts are that if it's got to start somewhere, and we've got to have commitment, and if we've got commitment that I see now coming from the school committee up there, that school committee has people from all those towns there, and they're committing to it. So they're not just committing to it for their junior and senior high school students, they're committing to it for the education of and the children in the entire district. So I'm hoping that they bring that back to their communities, and I'm hoping that when we meet with not only the Tantascwa Regional School Committees, but the individual school committees as well, because we plan on going to each one of the school committees in the towns as well for their elementary school, so that we get that commitment from them as well.
So picking up on Karen there, so I understand the program, it sounds like you're asking Sturbridge to fund this. You'll hire a new person to fill this position. Their role will be the resource officer. You'll have them up there full-time, and to the extent the other communities can spare somebody from their detail and go up there and run a program for a couple hours, that's how you supplement. It's not like Sturbridge will staff it Monday and Tuesday, and Brimfield will take Wednesdays, and another community will go there. You're the main person up there running this with supplemental support from the other communities. Is that an accurate description?
But we'll have somebody up there full-time from Sturbridge, and the participation from the other towns won't be full-time. It'll be part-time, and it'll be dependent upon the amount of hours that they are able to participate in that. But that's something that we have to establish, and again, this is something that we are trying to, a program that we're trying to get off the ground, and it's something that we've worked on during the summer. In the past, we've spoken about the school resource officer up at Tantascwa, and now here I've got the committee that's saying, okay, we're interested, and we came at the school committee with a different approach to this, and I feel that it's a necessary position up there full-time, and I think that the program itself has a lot of promise, and I feel that if the committee itself, with representation from all those communities, buys into this program, I think that the program will be successful in each one of the communities, and they'll contribute enough to make it successful there.
Larry?
I appreciate very much your use of the word complex earlier and complications. So a question: is it fair to conclude that the fact that the current regional school committee assigned a subcommittee for a responsibility along these lines is a pretty good indication that the complexities of days of yore are beginning to smooth themselves out, perhaps having to do even with the membership of the regional school committee?
Yes, and we're all looking at it differently, and I think that everybody's looking at it with a different set of eyes, from a different perspective, and there's been over 5 years that have passed, and if I think everybody's taken a different approach to this.
Further, it has got to be really, really tough to form it and organize it and try at the earliest moment to have complete answers. So you can't. Is one way of understanding the way you're working with your counterparts. A little funny as it may sound, a little like the original American 13 colonies. We're going to get along except when we don't get along, and we don't get along except when we do get along, and everybody having goodwill works their way toward it. And the answers to the wonderful questions today begin to come to light. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, but I don't think that this concept is going to be successful unless we have the buy-in and the commitment from these communities. And we need to have that commitment and that buy-in from these communities for it to be successful. We're not going to be able to do it on our own.
Then just one or two other points, if you'll indulge me. You used the word teach or teaching a few times. Is that a conceptual, I'm delighted to hear it, is it a conceptual departure from earlier efforts that would get bogged down with the literal how many yards of the campus are in another town? I mean, that was the level of discussion.
That is a huge non-entity. We've had a Central Mass Law Enforcement Council mutual aid agreement in place for a number of years, so we have concurrent jurisdiction, and the police departments, we have no jurisdictional issues whatsoever, and nor would we have in any of these 5 communities.
So, no, I understand. I'm just trying to say that it sounds like the concept you have in mind, including teaching, is far superior and more sophisticated, which only benefits the students, the faculty, the staff, and the households and businesses, than earlier, when people were practically running around with tape measures and saying, well, my kid isn't going to get arrested by a cop from...
The thought process has changed quite a bit.
Good, thank you.
Jim?
I was just curious, so you're looking for funding for this year from the citizens of Sturbridge. What about going forward? Is this going to be something that's going to be in the Tantascwa school budget, where it's funded through the school budget so that all the towns pay a fair share of...
I don't have any commitment. I don't have any commitment from the Tantascwa school committee or whomever develops their budget for funding this in the future. No, I don't.
So if we don't get funding from the other towns a year from now, you're saying we might have to withdraw from this?
No, this is not dependent upon our officer is not dependent upon the funding from any other resource except for the town of Sturbridge. What we're asking for is additional resources from those communities above and beyond what we are putting up there.
So this cost in the future wouldn't be covered by the Tantascwa school budget?
At this time,
this would be an ongoing cost for the town of Sturbridge to
yes.
supply a resource officer to
yes.
a regional school that covers 5 towns.
Correct.
And we would foot the entire bill.
Yes.
Assuming that town meeting in Sturbridge approves that appropriation.
Absolutely. That's my whole point.
Right, if
My
Sturbridge,
whole point is,
if the town meeting felt that they didn't want to bear the full cost of this and turn down the funding mechanism for that, then we wouldn't have the position funded.
And I
exactly the point I'm making.
And I don't disagree that, I think that I would like to see, and I'm not prepared for that, and I'm not in that position right now. But I have always been in the position that Tantascwa pay for the school resource officer, that Tantascwa pay for half the school resource officer. And each time that we pushed back on that, we were told no, no, no. And if we had that money, not quoting anybody, but the message was if we had that money that it would go to another teacher, until finally we pushed enough and said, well, we'll pay for it. And they said no. And now, here we are where all of a sudden the mindset has changed a bit, and there's additional information. We've developed a new approach, and I'm hoping that some of these other communities will open up and say yes to their police departments, so that they get school resource officers trained with specific dedicated budgets that are there for the resource officer program, so that we can become unified and that we can standardize across the district.
And I believe and I agree with you in principle across all those lines. I just have an issue with us funding a program where the other towns that are involved are either unable or unwilling, probably unwilling more likely, to pay their proportionate share. I just don't think that's fair to
and there's no specific requirement either. We have a verbal commitment that's completely, there's no...
And I don't disagree in theory and concept, but when we go up there to deal with a crime or deal with a traffic accident in the parking lot, and the child is from Wales, we're not billing the town of Wales for our services when we go up there, nor are we billing for our services when we have an ambulance that goes up and assists a child that's broken his ankle on the football field. We don't bill, because that child's from Holland, we don't send a bill to the town of Holland for that service either.
Send it to the child's family. Anyway, so, you know, it's heartening to hear that there's a change in the thought patterns taking place from the district, because the district's always had this opinion that, and it's true, that they're their own political body and that they make their own rules and they live by their rules. But why the need to do it now, this second, for this fiscal year, if there's a move on in the school committee to look at it, study it, and then go back to them and say, take a vote and include it in your budget for next year, into the regional budget, and see where they're going with it. If they come back and say, no, we're not gonna pay for it regionally, then we take a look at it. But I'm with Jim. This is, you know, it's a regional thing. They look at themselves as a region of 5 towns, and then it's one town end up supporting the whole structure of this thing. And the only town that's willing to make a commitment to support the structure of it.
Could you just rephrase the question part of that again for me?
Why does it have to be done now is basically.
Okay,
They're studying
the now is because there was always the impression out there, and it's just because of many years of this discussion, that Sturbridge was going to take care of paying for an officer up there. There was never any, there was always that perception, while there's nothing, you know, every time there was a discussion about it, that's what I was led to believe, that when we first proposed it, it was supposed to, you know, there was opportunities for asking the school to pay. There was a 50-50 discussions that were going. It was always about discussions. Nothing ever made it this far in the process. And so working off of that thought process, I made the decision to come forward. The rush, we were hoping to have a school resource officer program or something in place at the beginning of the school year. And through the many discussions, it took us to this point to get to where we needed to be with our agreements, while not formalized completely, before we could come to any type of legislative body that could enact this. And the first time that there was going to be any meeting for this, we'd already missed the annual town meeting. And so with the special town meeting coming forward, this would put the program into play and begin it at the school as soon as and if it was voted in favor.
But it also starts the ball rolling downhill, which is very hard to pull back. When something is put in place, very often there's no coming back from it. And so, I mean, we're talking waiting, what, to January, February to figure out where the bylaw committee is going to propose to the entire Tantascwa screen, or is this ready to go on October 16th? Are they going to make a vote on October 16th?
I don't know enough about their process, that if it's voted on the 16th and it was favorably voted on the 29th, that it would be implemented soon thereafter.
It probably wouldn't be implemented soon after, but it could be added to their budgeting process for next year to take care of this.
That's something that could happen as well. I haven't got to their budget or to that point in any of the discussions yet with them.
You haven't discussed money at all?
With
the region?
No, I told them that I was doing this at the hearing, the meeting that I went to last week.
But that, that's unrealistic in a way, because even way back when, there was there were people very much pro, and it is a great idea, the concept is excellent, but there were also equal amount of people who were not willing to have Sturbridge fund this thing 100% of the time.
But and with respect to everybody in the community and everybody on this committee and with the Board of Selectmen and the regional school committees themselves, it's got to start somewhere. And if we've got to have that, if we've got to have it, but it's got to start somewhere. And I was involved in the process. I'm bringing this forward, and if it goes through and it becomes successful, then great. then hopefully the program continues to move forward and evolve into something wonderful. If it goes down and is defeated, you know, we'll continue to provide the level of services that we're providing, but you can't take a step forward you can't move forward without taking that first step.
Well, you know, some of it going back in history, because, you know, like you said, it's many through the whole thing. I mean, a lot of the concerns too were, you know, is the police officer going to be wearing a uniform? Is the police officer going to be armed? Is the police officer going to have?
Again, with the evolution of time, the Attorney General's office released a new MOU. The juvenile justice reform laws went into effect recently. There's been many changes to the juvenile laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The new MOU that's been released has been a work in progress that seems to be acceptable through the education departments across the state. I'm meeting on Tuesday with the superintendent of schools to go over a job description and an MOU draft that we'd like to have a draft in place for the school committee so that they could review it. And
why wouldn't it be the existing job description that we already have for a school resource officer?
Because of the change in the laws. The changes in our laws have required there to be changes in how the officers perform their duties at the schools.
So you would have to be going through the town anyways to change the town's own job description? Because it doesn't, I mean, if the laws changed for Tantascwa, it had to change.
Well, yeah, it'd have to change policy, and the job description itself would change, you know, but it would only change just in the areas where the law has changed. So that would be something that would go before the personnel committee as a modification, but those modifications are made because of the requirements of law.
I guess where I'm going, then, there wouldn't be a Burgess SRO job description in a Nebraska regional.
No, it's, again, this program is supposed to encompass the entire district. It's supposed to be the same, with the same curriculum, the same standards, the same security procedures, the same response procedures across the district, so that we standardize the whole program across the district.
Have any of the details been worked out, or is it just still conceptual? Because now you're asking for details because you're asking for money to fund it. But I mean, how does an officer up there go between both buildings?
Well,
One building half a day in another building.
But those are technical questions that I'm not going to get involved in open meeting. I think that's more on the security side of it, and I'd prefer to go into an executive session or discuss those, you know, in a different location than allowing them to be out in public, of what how the assignments are going to work, who's going to be where, between what buildings at what times.
Okay.
Chief.
However, they will be going between both buildings. It won't be staged in one and not in the other, but there will be a frequent flow between both buildings as far as the times are concerned. You know, that's to be determined.
That's fair. I'm just wondering. So, okay.
A quick one. Would it be correct to say that even if this passes the special town meeting, there's no guarantee that it'll actually be implemented, and that in fact this vote is a prerequisite to the board even considering allowing an SRO?
Well, on the 16th, I'd be able to go to the floor of the special town meeting, hopefully with the support of the Tantascwa Regional School Committee. And I think that in of itself, as well as the commitment from the other 4 chiefs, will carry some weight as to how this program is going to evolve and hopefully work towards its success.
Well, I guess my question is there an additional step, is there additional vote at the Tantascwa committee to approve the implementation after it's been funded from the town of Sturbridge?
That's the 16th.
Yeah, what if they don't approve it? Now we've funded an officer, what happens?
Well, no, town meeting has approved the expenditure of funds. That doesn't mean we have to expend those funds.
Right, and I would not be, as the department head and the chief administrator of this for the town of Sturbridge, until I had policy in place, job description in place, the MOU in place, then this program wouldn't be implemented until that time. Because once we get that commitment's there, you know, we would advertise, we would either go from within for a school resource officer, trained officer from within, or petition the officers from within to compete for it. If there was no interest or no one interested in training, then we would advertise for somebody specifically trained for that position. So that the hiring of the officer and the actual beginning of the process would be, the beginning of that officer being there would be the last part of it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make an observation to get away from the principle of what we're doing here, whether we in favor or oppose it, and get to the finance side of it. But because someone on this committee is a liaison to Tantascwa, I was able to get some information. So 47% of the population at Tantascwa are Sturbridge students. So to put that in perspective, if the other towns went in on this right now, we'd still have to cover 31,000 out of the 66,000. That would be our share. So really, we're only talking about 35,000. So
No,
just
this is
to
coming-
give it some perspective.
This is coming out of all of our money. It's $66,000, end of story.
I understand that, but if the other towns were to participate and put in their share, it would still be
They're not putting
31,000.
in money towards this position, they're putting in their own position. They're putting in their own.
Work
You-
hours.
My argument is not about that. My argument is about for this position, if the other towns were to participate, their share of the $66,000, if they agreed to participate pro rata for their 53% of the student population, would be about
The
35,000.
only way that happens is if it gets included in this regional
I'm
budget.
talking hypothetically, Kevin. I'm trying to put a spin on this, that what would be our portion of this? Say you prorate this for 12 months, and Tom comes to us and says it's 85,000. If the other towns agreed to participate, we would still have to cover, through the Tantascwa budget, we would still have to cover.
Yeah, if it got included in the Tantascwa
That's
budget.
what I'm,
But here
okay,
it's
so.
all or nothing.
It's
Sturbridge.
all ours, but I'm just saying, if you wanted to break it down on what would be our portion going forward if the other towns agreed to participate,
Well, notice
our
if
portion would be.
Tantascwa agrees to do it, not even if the other
Tantascwa,
towns.
of course, Tantascwa is us and 4 other towns.
No, the Tantascwa Regional School District,
They
if
have
they
to.
agree to it, that doesn't matter what the other 4 towns really think, because it's in their budget and then it gets divided by the.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to simplify the explanation to say that our portion of it would still be 47% of the Tantascwa budget is more than that because we don't pay on a straight pro rata basis.
He's talking about the increment.
I'm
Oh,
talking
I
about our
understand
increment.
what he's talking about, but that's not what you're asking the taxpayer to vote for.
I know we're not, but I'm just trying to put a perspective on it of what it would be if it were approved down the road and
With about 6 ifs in there.
with everybody all in. I'm just saying that we would still have to fund about at least 47% of this.
The towns have more leverage. The individual towns have more leverage than might be thought. There are members of the regional school committee today who weren't born the last time anybody seriously thought that there was anything behind the legal theory that a regional school district in this state was a body politic. Nobody wanted to prove that was correct because they'd say, and all right, get your fire department, get your own ambulances, get your own water system. It went nowhere. Used to be, no more, used to be they would vote at Tantascwa, hit a figure, it would be delivered to the annual town meetings, lock, stock, and barrel. It was not debatable. Here's the number, figure it in. No more. Now they come to us, we sit in on theirs, they come to the floor, they're prepared to make a defense if that's what is required, all of which is the context for saying that voters can enter that budget and change it. They can overrule the Tantascwa decision. They can overrule the selectmen's.
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, there's certain foundation budgets they can't.
So Jim, I understand your math that, even if it wasn't a regional thing, we'd still be paying roughly half of this cost. But in my mind, this program, if it really is part of that regional school system,
Right,
should
I'm
be
not
funded
saying,
through
I'm
that
not
budget.
saying I favor it,
We'll
Mike, I'm
pay
just
our
saying.
half through that. But I get your point, that it's got to start somewhere. If one community needs to step up to put the initial seed money in there to the tune of $60,000 to get this thing going, to show that it's got some value, to get the school committee to say, we're committed to this and we're going to roll it in our budget, it is as important as administrators, teachers, and custodial staff up there to operate the school. then you're looking for the starting point. If you're coming back next year and say Sturbridge, great programs, schools love it, but they want Sturbridge to fund the position full-time, we'll be having a discussion again as to why we can't get it in their budget. And with that, I think I'll make a motion that we recommend the article as written.
Second.
If there's additional discussion.
And just one additional discussion.
Well, I have some
I
points too,
have
but.
quite a bit as well.
I'd just like to make one further
Sorry, you
comment.
guys were kind of quiet.
The
You
same
have
kids,
a-
the same kids that have a resource officer at Burgess Elementary School go up there, and then they don't have one. And what's that reaction? You're not as important when you go into 7th grade as you were when you were in the 6th grade, because you're not worth having a resource officer. So that's another argument that's not financial. It's not driven by the dollar, so.
Joni?
Bruce has been down there for a long
Yeah.
time.
All right,
I wanna hear
Bruce,
from
Bruce and Joni.
That's fine.
Maybe I'll have the last
Well,
word.
I'm sorry, I apologize in advance. But you're thinking in the big picture that you painted at the beginning, and I have a great deal of respect for the dynamic program that you outline here, rather than just a soldier standing next to the door. And I wonder if I misunderstood, because they talk about additional costs, and really, you're looking to leverage more out of the other 4 towns, either more than 0, if that's what they're providing now, or more than 2, or more than 4, but not really going to accept any of the expense of that town's resource officer if they increase the hours. It's not really going to be part of your expense.
No, correct. What we're hoping to do is go before each one of the school committees and have each one of those police departments put forward a budget for each one of their school resource officers to participate in this program, and we'll have to come to a reasonable figure that they can afford in those communities, so that we have those commitments, that officer hourly SRO commitment from each one of the other communities that's going to be in conjunction with what we are providing up there as well. And again, it's going to be distributed across the entire Union 61 district itself. So there'll be 2 school resource officers up there for a certain amount of time. Our full-time officer, and then 2 hours of Brookfield, 2 hours of Brimfield, 3 hours of Holland, 1 hour of Wales, and then a different week, depending upon what they budget for their officers. If the town's school committees go to the towns and say, hey, we need X amount of dollars for our school resource officer program to participate in this regional school resource officer program, we need X amount of dollars. And that'll be their commitment to, their dollar commitment to it. They won't be offsetting what the town of Sturbridge is paying. I don't know if that clarifies. It's, if each one of them gave 10,000 just as a round number, they're not going to reduce our cost of the program by 40,000. It's just going to enhance it, because we're going to be doing it district-wide. We're actually getting programs into the elementary schools and showing that those towns are committed to this program, and then taking the resource officers that they have in each one of them towns and adding to what we already have going on in Sturbridge. So you may have a Brookfield officer at the junior high school doing a class one day, while the Sturbridge officers at the senior high school doing a class, and then the opposite day there may be a Wales officer at the senior high school while the Sturbridge officers over at the junior high school, and then another day they may be down at 1 or 2 of the officers may be down at the elementary school at the same time.
Thank you, that does clear it up, and it's a way better answer than I deserve for that question.
Thanks.
Joni, did you have questions?
I did. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of things, if I could. So at the beginning of your discussion, you made it a point to say that it would be funded for this year, not necessarily next year. What did you mean by that? Because the article's not written that it's only for this year.
Well, I don't know I don't know what's going to happen next year. We can put into the budget. I was asked by a member of the Budget and Grants Committee at Tantascwa, one of the subcommittees of the regional school, what happens, they asked me the question, what happens if Sturbridge decides next year in fiscal 20 not to budget this position? I mean, I rolled my shoulders. I don't have that answer. I don't know what to tell you. They said, well, will Tantascwa have to pay for it then?
Well, I guess I'm asking you, if this is funded this year, will you include it in your budget next year, which will be forthcoming in January?
not without first asking Tantasco to participate in the cost, but I can't, I have to get a
Okay.
commitment from them. I don't know, there'll be a portion of it, if not all of it, in next year's budget, yes.
So, thank you. So going back to the beginning of this year, of fiscal year 19 discussion, when we opened up our meeting in March, or whenever we had it this year, you were asked specifically if, and this is not a Kavanaugh hearing, by the way, I'm just making a comment from my notes from the last meeting. And there was discussion on the SRO officer and why it was not included in your budget this year. And you said that you weren't going to bring it up this time because the discussions were kind of at they were stagnant at the time.
And it wasn't until after school had recessed for the summer that I got the call, and that changed things.
Okay, well, I also have notes that I think you and Mary, actually, there was some sort of discussion that was going to take place, and I think it did take place. But I think as a result of that, and I can't say, because I don't actually know the answer, but I'm guessing that that meeting took place sometime in April or May, and that it was still not decided that the school committee wanted to pursue the SRO officer. So I guess to Kevin's earlier point, like, why the rush to get it into this special town meeting when budgets are forthcoming for both the town of Sturbridge and clearly the Tantascwa school budget? Why don't you try to, you don't have anything more than a verbal commitment of some sort from the other towns, from what I hear. They're not even committing to whether it's monetary or manpower. They're not saying, they just think it's a great idea, which fine. But why not get all of that stuff firmed and then perhaps come back, either put it in the budget next year and request it at that time for a long discussion on it, knowing that the SRO position has to go back to the personnel committee, it sounds like, so that's going to have to be put into place as well. Like, why wouldn't you want to get all of that done, knowing how emotional, I guess, for want of a better word, the SRO position always seems to be over the years? I guess I would want to see all of that stuff, rubber stamped before making a decision to fund it.
Well, I respect that, and I've been, it may not outwardly seem like I've been doing this, but for 12 years I've been preparing myself for this. And for 12 years I've been bringing this forward, so I don't think 12 years is a rush. And I'm not saying things now that I haven't said before, so when that opportunity presented itself and I had the administration and the chairman of the school committee there interested, and we started working on new ideas, and new ideas, came out of those meetings. And I've, never met with all the chiefs before, and we met, and more ideas came out of those meetings. And when we felt that we could establish a program like this, it was just a continuation of the things. I mean, the paperwork, some of the stuff I have in here, it goes back to 2002. And, so it's not anything that I feel I'm, well, the warrant article at a special town meeting seems like a rush, and I do agree with you that there is not enough firmness right now, firm answers for you right now to commit to such an important expenditure in addition to the police department. However, it's not new, and with this opening that we have and with the interest that we have, I'm just moving forward as I would any other time. It's not an emergency. However, school started, school's moving forward, and school's going to continue. I'm not opposed to whatever the vote's going to be of the committee.
But you're not even able to put a warm body in place, provided this goes through, and I forget what you said.
Right.
So you're not even ready to put a warm body in until, towards the end of the year, the end of the calendar year. So I guess I'm just wondering what the rush is to get it in.
We have no funding now for it.
No, I know you don't.
So I can't do anything with the positions until there's funding there. So I mean, the school's going to go through till June, and we want to have a program in place. And if it's the decision And I've always respected the decision of this committee. Whatever the committee decides, whatever it suggests, I'll certainly take that back and work towards that end. Whatever the school committee determines and decides, we'll work towards that end as well. We're taking a fresh look at this. We've got interest in it. We have committees that were tasked out to come to us. We think we've got a workable plan in place. And again, I said it's got to start somewhere, so I put this together and came before the committee. Whatever happens is going to happen, and I won't have any control over that, and I can only either move forward or continue to ask and
Well, I guess
work towards it.
it's a good thing that you do have the positive feedback that you're getting, and I guess I would suggest to continue that on and try to get more of a firm commitment from the other towns.
Okay.
And I guess, some sort of commitment from the school committee, because, having the taxpayers pay for something like this, I don't know, I would want all that to be vetted very thoroughly.
And I understand that, and I respect that and appreciate that. And that's just as long as you get where I'm coming from with my position on it too.
I just have a question in the actual article itself. The summary box makes it sound like this is prorated. This is only paying for the rest of the fiscal year.
Yes.
So what's the full annualized cost for this position?
Yeah, that was my question, actually, yes.
I didn't bring those figures with me.
You've been doing it for 12 years, and I know you.
Well, I know, but I just don't have the numbers that.
When did you assume you were going to hire the position?
I think that the numbers you have are 35 weeks, so if you divide them by 35 and multiply them by 52.2, you'll have your answer.
So this is for 35 weeks?
Do you have any other questions?
No, that was what I just wanted to know.
So, getting back to the amounts in here, Chief, why would there be overtime for an SRO officer? You're asking for overtime of almost $4,000.
Well, when we factor into any replacement costs or any unforeseen overtime, it's part of the overall budgeting process for an additional officer for 35 weeks.
Sort of
So I just took the numbers off of what we break down and separate for the entire department. I took one officer position out of there, and that's at the highest level of education, with coming in with a higher level of experience. It's a worst case scenario number. I mean, I shouldn't say worst case scenario, but the most expensive case. It could be cheaper, but that was just taken off of the overtime lines. Well, the reality of it is, with that position, it's not going to need to be backfilled, because it's not going to have anybody that's backfilling, so there's likely no overtime. The only overtime that would be incurred is if that officer is involved in an activity that requires the officer to stay over on the regular shift, or that's involved in some kind of an activity that requires overtime. So that is just anticipated. And those numbers may not be used, just like anything else that our overtime budget is budgeted off a worst case scenario and a 45% fill rate of the shifts of the accruals that all the officers have.
So how long would it take to get an SRO officer, which I'm probably repeating, the always officer, trained? Because right now you only have the one. So how long would it take to get whether it's an existing officer and then you replace that?
Well, there's already I already have one officer that's going to SRO school now.
Oh, you do?
Just to have some kind of backup there. And that's a 2-week school for that officer. And I would also see what kind of interest there would be from the department to see if anybody else would be interested. And if the position did come to being, then there's a potential that I could advertise for a school resource officer that's already trained, somebody that's already experienced, somebody that comes to us with
already.
It's already and before that person goes into the school, there's going to be a team from the school, not just the police department. We're going to have an interview panel. We're going to make sure that the person that's going into that position is going to be somebody that everybody is agreed on working with and that feels comfortable with, and that meets the criteria that the school may have and that we have for that person.
And Chief, I don't mean to drill down too much, but what does the SRO officer do in July and August when school's closed?
Well, there are a number of different initiatives that are ongoing with the school. We have different programs, the Rad Kids program, the Rad Adult program. There are different initiatives that the officer is involved in, and when the officer isn't involved in anything, that officer will be patrolling, just like our school resource officer does, is an extra patrol in the streets.
Okay.
Now, and one final question myself. I guess it was about 5 years ago when the current SRO in Burgess came on, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was. And actually at that time, the proposal was that that officer would actually cover all 3 schools, which obviously now this is a different model, but does it almost seems as if you look at percentage-wise in each school, that Burgess still would have proportionally more time. Would you anticipate that officer possibly going to the junior high and cutting those hours a little bit from Burgess?
No, not at this time. Just because of the establishment and success of that program over there, that officer's dealing with 7 grades, K through 6.
Oh, it is a very large school.
By herself right now, and the other officer would be dealing with 5 grades by themselves up there. But putting putting this program into place is only going to enhance what each one of the officers is doing in the school, in the senior and junior high school, as well as in the elementary schools.
Kathy?
Yeah. Larry?
Chief, as far as you may know, across the country, and the current SRO school that you referred to, is the officer considered a faculty member, goes to faculty meetings, and what is the reporting relationships among the police hierarchy and the school hierarchy, an assistant principal, a principal, a deputy superintendent, and deputy chief, and how does all that work? And the faculty question.
The officer essentially becomes part of the school community, becomes part of the school culture, and works essentially for the school and for the school administration. While they still technically are a police officer and still fall under the command and control of the police department, their unofficial managers are the school administration, because the school administration, they work together with the school administration to establish what their daily activities are, what the daily responsibilities are, while the officer brings programs, and there are programs in existence at the school. They're part of the team meetings, they're part of the administrative level meetings with the school administration each week, each month, with the faculty the meetings that participate in all those employee meetings. And when the principal or vice principal wants something done and they go to the resource officer, it's expected that happens.
Thank you. Your answer prompts just one more question. Is there a constant sharing of information? If, I don't know, a 3rd grader says something and the teacher understands that is only said because at home it is a not good situation, to the point where it could actually be an out-and-out crime, does that kind of information move directly to the officer?
They've got an exceptional program over at Burgess. We can't get into too many details of how it works. They do have a very comprehensive team over there of faculty, of staff members and administrators, as well as a resource officer that would address issues like that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. And as well as their critical incident plans, all the things that have gone over in practice that we review, and et cetera. They've got a great program with it that's working.
Marks on a body and all that sort of bad stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Are we ready to vote?
We are.
I think we've had enough discussion, unless people want to think about it, but we don't have a lot of time to think. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
1, 2, 3. I see 5. Yeah.
Opposed? Oh, it's 5-4, so it passes. So well, we like to write down who was opposed. So Kevin, Karen. Must be the K's and then the J. JK's here, yeah.
Just the J is throwing us off.
Karen, Kathy, who is, oh, and Julie.
Would it be fair to say that it is not unanimous only because there are pending questions rather than conceptual disagreement?
Correct. I think that would be correct. I don't want to speak for everyone, but.
All right.
I want more detail.
And quite frankly, I got more details, I could go either way, I decided to come on your side of the fence, and with the logic of seed money to get it started. But I might not be as generous next year.
I hear everything that you've asked me, and I will, the next time we meet, I will hope to have more answers. I would hope to have a better framework, and I hope to have the answers that you're looking for, so that, your support's important to me. And also, away from the committee time, the one-on-one interactions, the phone calls, I'm available to answer those questions, or if you have other issues that you want to present with this that you think that I need to move forward to, because I can't do it all by myself, and I need the suggestions and I need the help. So whatever it is, my ears are wide open and my mind's open to this. I just want the program to be successful up there.
Well, thank you, Chief, but I believe you have another article.
I do.
If you can take a deep breath here. Article 46. We probably should have started with that, you're correct.
Does she have something?
Well, yeah, that was the easy one.
Does she have something else?
17.
That was the easy one.
I didn't have it written down.
We'll take the 2-minute version of this one. I know you keep saying over the last years you're short, so how short are you on dispatches, and how is it gonna fit in?
I'm not one to cry danger, danger, ever. But it's getting to be the point where, if you've heard me before say this, those of you who have been on the committee longer, those of you who haven't, you still may have heard it from me that there's a lot of stress in that position, and it's wearing our people down. There's 5 people to cover 24/7 of that dispatch center. In 2012, they required us to handle EMD, emergency medical dispatch. And there's a public conception for those that don't know enough about it, that think that just, hey, somebody's just answering the telephone. And that's not the case. The public safety dispatchers, the public safety telecommunicators that we have here are the lifeline, the first person that you talk to when you call up for help. If you're screaming because your child's choking, if you're screaming because your husband or wife has stopped breathing, they're the ones that are giving you CPR instructions over the telephone. And they're giving the ambulance, they're giving the police officers, the first responders, their pre-arrival instructions, letting them know what's going on there. And when the officers and the ambulance get there, they hang up the phone and they don't know what happened. Or they may go to bed knowing that Mr. Smith, while he was screaming out his wife's name over and over again because he couldn't get her heart going, he couldn't get her to start breathing again, that goes to bed with that dispatcher. And it wears over time and time and time. Well, we've doubled the size of our fire department, we've doubled the size of our emergency medical calls, and we've continued to grow our calls for service. And the technical aspects of public safety answering points, the PSAPs, have increased. We went to next generation. Next generation means we take text messages. We take 911 calls now, wireless direct. All additional call loads that are being put on a single dispatcher that sometimes may have a second dispatcher there but doesn't. The Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, whose standards we've held our fire department to, and many of you are aware of those of that, states that if you're providing EMD services to your community, NFPA standards requires you to have 2 dispatchers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do not. We have 5 dispatchers there to cover those 21 shifts. I have 4 part-time dispatchers right now. I can't get people to come on to the part-time side that have experience, and it costs a lot of money and a lot of hours to get people trained to those positions. The people we have, they're certainly feeling the effects of the job. I just lost a dispatcher to a full-time police position. I'm bringing somebody on now. They're in the training process. I have somebody else that's been out sick for an extended period of time, and it's, for their dispatchers are working an average of 64 to 70 hours a week each right now, just to answer the phones. There's no backup to it. Regional dispatch, the concept was great. We thought it was going to solve a lot of our problems with our radio system, with our dispatch personnel. It didn't happen. And we know that we need to have these dispatchers. I asked for them and keep asking for them. and keep asking for them. And I've never been nervous before in this position. I've never been scared. And I'm just afraid that a mistake's going to happen, and you can't have a second chance to send somebody to somebody's house when the phones are ringing off and then you're all by yourself getting an ambulance and a fire truck and a police car out there. And yes, if they let the 911 calls roll over, they'll go to another community after a certain amount of rings, and the other community is going to get that 911 call and take that information and send it back to us. But what about the person that was calling for a lower level of service but still important, that gets put aside and keeps getting put aside, but can't call back, and then all of a sudden whatever condition they are in gets worse? We need 2 dispatchers there, and if we can't afford to fund them for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, let's at least afford to fund them between the first shift and the second shift when it's the busiest time of the day. I'm asking for the funding for an additional full-time position for the rest of this fiscal year and to be permanently part of the budget.
That's what this is, full-time for the rest of this year, so.
That's
Full-time for the
prorated.
So that's prorated.
Prorated.
No, I understand that.
That's what's gonna be my
Yes.
question.
Yeah. So that would start almost immediately after
After the vote, yes.
The vote.
So, and staffing-wise, you're saying you're gonna add an extra body to one or a couple of
Right now, we
shifts?
have a day shift, an eve shift, a mid-shift dispatcher on at all times. And we have another dispatcher that splits between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., but that dispatcher's on a 4 and 2 schedule, so there's, each one of the 2 days off, there's only one dispatcher on. That we would develop a schedule that would cover both those day and evening shifts with two dispatchers all the time, and the shift that we would allow to have only one dispatcher on, which is the shift that's the least busiest, is the midnight shift, the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's really gotten to that point that I can't wait till next year to come back. I've asked for this. We've been through the discussions on this before. I thought that the regional dispatch was going to solve this issue, and it didn't. I asked for a dispatcher this year, but it didn't happen. And with everything, the way that everything was just happening right now, I didn't like the way in the direction that we were going in. And I see those people every day, and I see what they're going through, and I see how much pressure they're under. And if I lose just one of them tomorrow, then we're in a bad place. Again, we're serving not just the police department, we're serving the fire department and the emergency medical services in town here with a single person answering the phone. And we've received funding to backfill some of those spots from the state 911 grants, and I used to use the part-timers, but the part-timers all have full-time jobs now, so I'm not getting them as much. I used to be able to use that 911 grant for the last couple of years to put a second dispatcher on strategically through both those shifts. Well, that money's still there, and I'm still trying to fill those shifts. I want to be able to hire more dispatchers on part-time, but I still need that full-time commitment so that when I do get into this position, at least we have a full-time staff that's always there to answer.
I'll make a motion that we approve Article 36.
I do have a question though, just not related to this. Do you still do the Citizen Police Academy?
Yes.
I would recommend anyone who has an interest in just seeing what it's like to be a day-to-day police officer to take that, because I did that, one of the first ones that the department offered, which was a really eye-opening experience.
And if anybody from the committee or otherwise that would ever love to come in, would like to come in to sit with our dispatchers for an afternoon, for a morning, for an evening, for a day, I welcome it. I just, there's no better way to understand what these men and women do on a day-to-day. It's amazing. And we have the National Telecommunicators Appreciation every year, and we say thank you, but they're always the first person we get in contact with and the first person that we want information on, but they're always the last people that we say thank you to. Is always and we've got to recognize how important their role is, and I don't think that we've, given enough, and I'm just asking that you support this warrant article so that we can add another dispatcher.
Well, I realize he went through that program, but I still say don't give him a gun.
Actually, they give you one for this training fake stop, and so you play cop, you pull over some guy, and the police officer got out of his car and started yelling, "What do you mean?" And I would have shot him if I had real gun. I would have scared the crap out of me so bad. I would have.
Okay, there.
All right, let's vote.
So, I'm in favor of it.
It's truly what it
Stop
was.
talking.
I don't have a problem with your funding request. I just want to verify that this, Leon, this got here on a warrant because Leon was in support of and agreed to there was a need to bring on the extra staff, and you have a 5-0 vote from the selectmen, so I assume the selectmen are supporting the additional position as well, right?
I don't know that I have an opinion from Leon.
Okay.
We haven't achieved them that close, I got what's
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
Actually, I worked in North Bishop before I came here retired. We converted 2 departments into one dispatch, and when Zach ordered those, some of what we had, and that was, 3 or 4 years ago. I know it's a very busy situation, I wholeheartedly support this.
And since it came up at a reserve fund transfer, just want to make sure that you don't need additional office space and renovations to the building in order to support the staff position, that they can fill in. You have existing resources in terms of
We have two
desks
dispatch,
and
we have two
whatever.
dispatch stations right now. We have done the renovations that we have been renovating the dispatch center over the years, and we do have 2 dispatch stations now, and the funding that I'm requesting is only for personnel.
Well, there is the cabana and the fresh towel service.
Let's vote.
The kitchen.
Yes, I think it's time to vote.
What is that? Chief Grasso?
I think we are ready to vote. All in favor of Article 46? 9-0, thank you.
And, you know, I appreciate everything that you do for the town, I really do, and thank you for, you've always had a good ear for me and some great advice, and, you know, I appreciate everything that you do for us too, so thanks for listening to me, and thanks for your understanding and your support for everything throughout the years, and now and for this special town meeting. Thanks.
Thank you for coming out, Chief. All right, do we want to continue?
Oh, yeah, let's start with Article 34, that's an easy one. I'll even move it as approved as written.
Okay, I was told that there is a possibility that there could be more, so we would have to vote perhaps the night of the town meeting, but right now it's 900, the very first one, 910-21. Kevin has made a motion.
Second.
Jim has seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, ordinarily, under the caption, in parentheses, doesn't it say 9/10 approved vote required?
That's usually at
Yes.
the top, yeah.
It should be
under the
yes.
header.
Yes, you're right. Good catch there.
We just ask that I keep focusing on these and develop the systems so that they come in on time, but I have no problem
Yeah,
making
well.
the payment.
All right, all in favor? That's 9-0. Now, I have a note on Article 35 here.
Oh, good, I got lots of questions.
Now, Jim, did you meet on this? Did the search committee meet today?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So have they decided to go with a search firm, I guess?
We're going to go to the Board of Selectmen, Ted. We're going to go to the Board of Selectmen and recommend that they approve that we use a search firm for this undertaking.
But then we don't have any amount then.
Right, do you
No,
have
because
any?
we didn't have an amount when we just got the quotes today. Well, we just had the interviews today with 2 search firms, and they came in under a threshold. Both firms came in under the threshold that requires that we put it out for bid.
So what's that?
So that means, one was $9,500, the other was $9,800.
The threshold's 10,000.
10,000 to go out to bid, so we looked at the 2, and we had a debate, we were back and forth about which one to choose. They were both very strong. One I didn't reference, but the Chief Ford was familiar with one. I was familiar with the other one. I checked some references with people who had used them and got very high recommendations, but we felt it was appropriate. I can bring it up here, but it has to go, Mary Dowling was gonna bring it to the select board to talk about whether or not they would go along with funding this. The other thing that came of this is there's a warrant article here to fund it, but because the amount was so low, we felt it may be a much more expeditious way of doing this would be to ask for a reserve fund transfer for the amount. That way, if we make the decision, we can pull the trigger right away instead of waiting until town meeting, which is October 29th, and we could gain 3 weeks in this process if it was approved that way.
But it's not an unforeseen cost, you're already anticipating it.
We are
Yeah.
anticipating it.
Yeah, so no no.
Well, it was unforeseen at the time we set this year's.
Yeah, it was unforeseen at the budget time.
So I think it still fits into, you could use it as a reserve fund transfer initiative.
Well, I disagree, actually,
So
but
then I'll make a motion that we take no action on Article 35, so that, because part of the thing is the wording has no amount, has no.
Well, the note that I did have from
it will
Barbara on
come.
this
It'll
was
come
that
forward, right?
it may come forward, so I'm not sure we should be taking no action yet.
Your next meeting's the 18th?
No, our next meeting is next
Thursday.
Thursday.
You
And
have another, you have one before, you have another one after that?
Probably, yes.
following Tuesday, I
Probably
think,
the
is what you
following
were
Tuesday, the
planning.
16th.
Plan a meeting, well, actually plan a meeting Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So I think by next Thursday,
We'll have an answer Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you needed it by the 15th.
No, we aren't going to be posting our recommendations. The warrant has to be posted by the 15th.
Okay.
And the whole
So-
purpose of what we want to do is not wait until the 29th for the town to approve it.
So this says there's a final vote from the selectmen, but the article does require a dollar amount, not just a wide open item. So they'll have to fix that when they do it.
before.
we didn't have them when we put it up, so we're going to, have them for you. We will have-
They voted to the, well, yeah.
Interesting.
We know the amounts, now the question is which firm. and then-
Well, and what I would say is, if you think it's 95 or 9,800, and I see a warrant article of 10, I would suggest you make the number 15. You don't have to spend it all, but I hate to see you cut it real close, and then there's some other expense. That we
I
don't want.
believe that would be a problem if it goes above 10.
Yes. Mary, do you have some input?
Kathy, I was gonna say that you could put an amount in there not to exceed 12,000.
Right, right, we've done that before.
Well, because it's a little more
We have.
than, bids. Well, not bids.
Can you hold to
I would rather wait.
I think we can just hold. We're going to be meeting again, so it'll be more definitive. And 36 as well, right. What is the reason for a transfer to town administrator? No, I'm just asking that question.
I got questions for there too, so.
Well, maybe why don't we just wait? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's no
let's get
number.
more information.
Yes,
I think you'll be all set by next week for that.
okay. 37 and 38, we have people coming.
Okay.
39, we did 40. Do you want Tom Chamberlain to come back again, or no? 40 is the tree removal, 270.
I'm not going to be here, but please ask lots of questions.
No,
Oh, question? No, he's been here, he's told us what it is, we've heard it.
the question is whether we want him to come back again,
Oh,
or do you have
gosh.
enough info now?
I'll make a motion to approve the article as written.
I'll second that motion.
Which article is this?
Article
Number
40.
40. Is there discussion?
There's an issue, it's a lot of money, there's a lot of damage from that event there. I'm concerned now that we have identified that there are a number of dead trees and that are town-owned trees, that if we don't take any action to get them out and, they fall over, someone gets hurt, that we knew they were there and we didn't have a plan or take any action in there. So, it's an awful lot of money, but he's got a problem he's gotta fix, and let's just attack it, get it done with and move on.
And just as a side comment, I brought to Barbara's attention our discussion last time about using flagmen versus police details.
Yeah.
My last conversation with her was yesterday, and she said she didn't have a definitive answer yet, but she would have one for us. She's still trying to get a definitive answer to what the circumstances are when we can and cannot use
Well, I
them.
thought Tommy answered that. He said if it was roads over 40 miles an hour, he's required to have a police.
45 miles an hour.
45, okay, he's required to have a police officer.
Yes.
And less than that, he could go with either a police officer or flag.
And I also believe, but I don't know this for certainty, if it's a state-funded project that's going on a road and the state is paying for it or funding it, then that has to be prevailing wage, which means you might as well have a police detail because it's gonna cost you the same.
About the
But I
same.
don't know about a local 30-mile-an-hour road where the DPW is, I don't know that. And Barbara couldn't give me that answer as to what the cost would be. Because all things being equal, if the cost is within $1 or $2, then you go with the police detail because you might as well have someone with a gun.
5 million, you still got your prevailing wage, so yeah, makes it more complex.
So,
I wasn't here when he came. Is this $270,000 to remove or prune identified trees?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes.
He's got something like
They had-
500
but also,
identified.
the committee approved a reserve fund transfer, and that was supposed to be less deducted from this total, if I'm not mistaken. So he's still asking for the 270? Because my understanding was very specific.
Yeah, you
That it
did
was
ask that.
270 less the reserve fund transfer.
I think that was about 29.
26 or
Seven,
27.
It was close to $30,000.
27,000.
Might be in the minutes here.
That's where I'm going, yeah.
2736.
So, you know, that needs to be changed. I'm not voting for it anyway, so, but I still think
do you-
that needs to be adjusted.
Do you know that, Ted?
That was the first I heard of that.
It was
He
very,
did
I was
say
very
that.
specific.
He did say that. I would amend my motion to whatever, 270,000, so that we would transfer from free
Well, we
cash.
need someone to do the math here.
Well, it'd be
We're gonna-
what?
That would be the
200
We
calculator.
don't have to get, why don't we just round it to 250?
42,000.
Just make it
Don't
250.
round, just, like, be specific. You know, we are the finance committee.
My hesitation,
What is it?
and I didn't get a
27,360.
good
Yeah, it was
answer during the last meeting, was
42,640.
cutting down 700 trees in one major effort, to me, seems unprecedented. Has anything like
seems
this
a
ever
lot.
been done on this scale by a town at one point? Is there any historical equivalent? It just feels like somebody would have tackled something like this before, and maybe there's I just want some baseline to compare to. It seems like we could be overreacting.
So can I just comment on that? And this is not any kind of, it's not based on any, you know, super scientific formula. But I did have a discussion with a friend of mine who works in the town that I used to live in, which is highly populated, and it is a Tree USA town, and they do not go through this kind of expense. At least they never have, and it's a far bigger town than Sturbridge. That's, I mean, it was just a conversation that I had, and I was
I don't know
tickled to hear
that
it.
we have, but I bet you the city of Worcester cut down
The
more
city
than
of Worcester took
700
down-
trees
With the
when they
ash
had
borer.
the ash borer.
They took
Yeah, they
down
took-
over 3,500 trees as a result
Little,
of
little
this.
bit of a different situation,
I
though.
mean,
A little bit of
that
a different situation. Little different. The longhorn beetle.
What I can drive around town.
Little
you see
different than
700
just
trees.
dead trees or limbs, because
all it
it's not
was.
all trees. No, some of those trees were taken down to specifically reduce the beetle from traveling up the neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It
and
wasn't
it's
just
Worcester.
dead trees, Jim.
I mean, was there a similar effort, maybe on a smaller scale, when the tornado came through, or when we had the massive snowstorm? I mean,
Well,
When the tornado came through, that was a multi-million-dollar effort.
that was a FEMA thing.
well, I mean, when it comes to, but this is specific to preventing a potential hazard due to dead trees.
And limbs.
And limbs.
And limbs.
The other thing is, I live on Brookfield Road, and I drove up my road, and I just did a quick, you know, up inside, and I went against the grid, right, because those are not included in the tally. I counted 2 that I considered, and I'm not a tree warden.
Well, and it
But I
was
know
not
a
the
dead
tree
tree
warden
from
who
a
did this. It
live
was,
tree.
they were
I
arborists.
traveled 1 mile on Allen Road and 3 miles on New Boston Road to get to Route 20. And I counted 42 trees that were dead, that were in vicinity of the wires and of the road, 42. And I just did it after our last meeting, because I said, I'm going to see if
Won't
Joni's
the
right.
electric company
Go
take
to
some of those?
Brookfield
Yeah.
Road.
Yes, that was that was
Yes, he
that
did,
was discussed in
I knew you
detail.
would.
There was a part of it that
And if I had gone
they're going to do on a schedule, and
to Brookfield.
Evidently, there was a group of arborists that he had come out
Probably would have seen the
over
same
the
thing.
summer, and,
Really?
yeah.
They do come
paid for
back,
that?
Jim.
It was a
They do
grant.
come back.
right. But I guess I'm saying is, if every town did something like that, would they find themselves
Okay, it's a lot of
with
money.
this
Right.
burden
It's
as
like
well?
a surgeon's gonna tell you you need surgery. Did we really, was it, you know?
I don't doubt the results of the survey. I
I
just
just had one removed.
I think we should.
I think we're
approach
a
this
little
without
at
having
cross
the
purposes
facts that
here, if
this
we could
is
have one at a time.
Probably a more proactive approach than many other communities are taking it here. A lot of other communities may say, I only have the $25,000 to $30,000 that we typically give Tommy to do there. And, you know, they'll deal with them, you know, one by one and hope for the best. Tommy is trying to get ahead of this.
Yep.
Take them down, not have to worry about limbs and trees coming down at times that you look at a tree and it's dead, but you think it's standing up there and it's good for another 10 years, and, you know, it'll come down tomorrow. So it's hard to look at one and say, that one has to come down. This one I think I can get away with for a little while.
I just looked quick on the internet, Jared, and it's pretty extensive verification of the devastation that caused across central Massachusetts.
yeah, I don't dispute the fact
right.
of the state. I'm just,
Right.
my concern is, do we even explore a more, a graduated approach or
A phased
incremental
approach.
approach,
Yeah.
phased approach, do it over several years, 2 or 3 years? It just seems like, we've identified these trees and all of them come down tomorrow when you have to act right now and go through this massive effort. I was just wondering, is there any historical precedent to say, actually, if we take this other moderate approach, you could save money over the long term?
I would imagine, though, that giving him the money now doesn't mean it won't be done over a phased approach over a number of years, because it could be encumbered, because it's been given to this task, and it could take more than just this fiscal year.
It's true.
Well, it might, because it might be difficult to get the people to do it.
I was of the impression that he wanted to get it done before the leaves left.
He wanted to do it as fast as possible, I agree.
Because
with
he
you.
doesn't want to go and mark the
But-
trees.
But as far as the technical aspects of it goes, as far as spending money, this can be like, it'll go on, it's been divvied to this fund until it's been rescinded, and he can use it as needs to. And it gives him money if it takes him 5 years to do it. It doesn't make him come back every year for a portion of getting it done. He's got the funding, do it, get it done.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I'm sure you guys are gonna vote this forward, I won't. And if it passes at town meeting, let's just make sure next year, when he comes asking for money, that we remember this.
Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Wardick, though, if he would amend his second to $242,640, which is minus
Is that deducting the amount that we approved before? I will,
Can you say,
amend my motion to,
what is it again?
$242,640.
I think that makes perfect sense.
So basically, we would have to make, how would the motion be termed? It would be to amend the article to read $242,640 and otherwise approve as written.
Well, I think the recommendation of the Finance Committee, you're gonna rewrite the
No.
article
You wanna do it,
and
you
change the
wanna
words.
Do it, or you want to?
Yeah.
Say that
Anyway, you
again.
figure,
Why
I
make it
say
more
to amend the
difficult? It's
article-
easier to amend the, right? Like you're saying, it's easier to do it that way. To amend his motion.
He's making a request, you're just making the motion, you can make the motion for any amount, I assume.
Right.
Yes.
Make an amendment.
No, you can't make it for more
No.
than what it's for. We couldn't make it for $500,000.
Well, no.
Any amount
But less.
Right.
So
Tony,
typically,
there's
the
no doubt in your
recommendation of the
mind that
Finance
he
Committee,
said
so
he
for
would
changing it,
subtract
not,
Not that he had
It
already
all depends on how you want to do
Absolutely,
it.
I asked the
Right.
question
Typically, before
specifically.
that, it was to amend the article to read $242,360 and otherwise approve it as written.
Okay, that
It all
works.
depends on how you want to do it.
Either way works for me.
So what are you gonna do?
Kathy, you call, you're the chair.
Well, we usually, I believe, amend this motion.
Jim's
That's what I'm doing.
motion.
Yes.
Amend the amount to $242,000 and otherwise approve as written.
Right.
It's not the article, it's your recommendation, your motion.
Our recommendation is
Yeah.
that it be 240,640.
It's what you recommend.
Is it 643 or 640?
640.
Okay.
242,640.
That's what I thought you said. Okay,
so moved.
all right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
But he can't cut any
Abstaining.
trees in Joni's
Are you
neighborhood.
abstaining?
Don't
Yeah,
touch
I
my
just
tree.
don't know enough. I'm not gonna vote on
I'll
it.
be outside.
that's
I'll tie
6
my body to it.
2-1.
Sorry, 621.
We had the J's
Joni and Jared.
and against. Okay.
Underground utility study? Are we got someone coming for that? I got,
You're just gonna plow through this, huh?
that's my way of doing it.
I have to be up early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Article 41?
No, we don't have anybody coming on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a, know about it. This is, I believe the board of selectmen is a sponsor of this. There is, apparently there is a potential need or potential, not sure if it's a need or it's a desire to go underground in the district in downtown. And this, in order to go forward with that, you have to do a study, find out what it might cost.
The study's already been done, that's my question. The
No?
Yeah, it has. It was done when Jim Malloy was here, and it was,
That was outdated.
yeah, but it was $8 million then. It was-
Yeah, but no kidding, I'd kill it again.
Well, to do it, yeah, exactly, it's not gonna be cheap.
No, and so.
But to do the analysis to get to that new number, whatever it's gonna be, utility companies have come forward and said it would cost this much money. It costs $9,000 for them to be able to do the study for.
Is it, now, when we did the study, the last time we did this, there were two or three options studied. One was basically going underground right where the poles are now. The second one was moving the poles, not underground, but literally moving the poles back a block and going along that whole corridor with the poles back a block off the main street. And I think the other one was the same thing, going back a block but submerged. And we ended up only looking at two, which is submerged where it is and the poles back a block.
I don't know, Mary, do you know, was it for underground? I think it's underground.
Yeah, it's
Underground.
So underground, right where it is right now. Okay, that's gonna be a huge number, and, I mean, this was 14, 15 years ago, and it was $8 million.
Correct. It was a huge number.
Is there a motion?
I'm not looking one for this one.
So when
I'll
did,
make a
what
motion that we
brought
take
this
no
up? Like,
action on this.
I'll second
who's
that.
sponsoring this?
No action.
The Board of Selectmen? So what made you guys do this?
Dallas did it. Actually, it's been brought up at our workshops the past couple of years, and it was actually one of the goals of the town administrator to look into it, so he did look into it and came up with this article. It's just to satisfy the board.
Can you tell
I
me?
mean, the whole board is not necessarily in favor of putting them under, but those that aren't in favor of it certainly would like to get a number and satisfy people who really want to pay them. You know,
Got it.
settle the debate.
Sure, absolutely. I agree.
Bruce?
Can you say anything more about the person who voted against, or this argument against?
Oh, well, we unanimously voted for it, just to get it out there and stuff.
It says 4-1.
It says 4-1 here.
That's what I was seeing, 4-1.
Oh, I didn't have the numbers. It would have been Priscilla.
It was.
It was Priscilla.
Yeah,
It
because
was on TV, it was Priscilla.
It was Priscilla.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just watched some of it.
I believe her thought was that it is expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's against it forever, she's just against spending the money right now, because she thinks we have better things to do
Well,
tonight.
It's not gonna get cheaper.
I go back to my point last meeting, again, and I think, 2 years ago, when I left, there were like 6 studies out there on all types of huge capital projects. I've yet to hear of any of the results of those 6 studies that are out there. Now we're gonna add a 7 for, another $90,000. And, we've already got lined up a new DPW garage, a new senior center, a new, I forget what the other ones were. I'd have to go back and read my book. But all these things are being investigated and were in line to be studied and funded.
Playing fields.
But Kevin, some of those have been done, but could you please get a list together and pass it on to us?
It's in the finance committee handbook from that year, we listed them, I'm pretty sure I actually remember.
One of them was totally wrong, because it's not the intent of the town to put water and sewer down 15. That one was wrong. But,
Okay.
the,
It wasn't all the way down Route 15, it was just to the, Candy Mansion.
Yeah, but the town, that was not the intent of the town. The needs assessment's been done on the senior center.
Okay.
We have a preliminary report on the engineering company that's doing the work for the town is no longer doing that work.
Oh.
So we have no study done on the safety complex yet.
I wonder if that new software that Lynn is looking to get, if you could incorporate this into the same
Idea.
software. I'm kind of half serious.
Well, just in perspective, the combined cost of a new dispatcher and SRO is still less than
Yeah.
trying to get a
Underground
figure for
utilities.
a number we already know is going to be very high.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, there's a motion to vote no, take no action, and there's a second. All in favor?
Sorry, so,
I have to recuse myself.
Oh.
so who, I didn't get I didn't hear the motion, so who
It was
gave it?
Jim and Kevin.
JW and
KS.
S to take no motion?
Take no action, so I believe it's 8-0-1.
I'm not even abstaining. I'm recusing myself.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Is that why you pushed so
That's
far
why I
back?
pushed so far.
Okay. So I'm going to make a note of that. that you,
Recuse themselves.
you recused. Thank you. All right, we do have a few more things on the agenda to get through, so I would rather leave the rest for
You want
another
to think
time.
about marijuana?
No.
We can't, the public hearing is Tuesday, so
Yeah.
we'll do that next
Take it
week.
up before then. We don't have to, if we can.
I know, but
How about just Article 48?
which one is that on?
That's to transfer from free cash $55,000 to reserve fund to kind of make up some of the big
That's
hits
about
we've
exactly
taken.
what we've
Did
paid
you
out
want,
since-
did you deliberately skip over 44?
Added it up. All we're doing is making up what we
We're
spent.
trying to, make up the
He's
big
coming,
hits.
44.
Get back to zero.
Okay, all right, we can get 48.
Yeah.
55,000 for the reserve fund. Is there a
Approve as
motion
written.
to approve as written?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
All right, now, wait just a second, wait, I got it, so Kevin made the motion,
I seconded.
Yes.
and it was unanimous.
So that's
This one's easy.
Oh, will you stop already? All right.
Which one?
Number 47.
47 is
No,
for that
the chief is
ambulance
coming on that.
Stretcher?
Oh,
Wait, let me read it.
The chief is coming for that. I
Yeah,
don't
I'd
think
like
the-
to hear about that.
yeah.
I want to hear.
I listened to it the other night when they talked about it.
Okay.
oh, that's fine.
All they're doing is bringing the older ambulance up to speed with the newer ambulance because the stretcher.
I'm not thinking it's a bad idea, I just want some of the
All they did
technical
was
details.
replace the stretcher because this one is safer because it takes away a lot of the danger of back injuries and the operators getting hurt. But all they're doing is bringing a new stretcher into the older ambulance that matches the brand-new ambulance that we just bought. It's technologically superior.
And maybe you could ask,
Adequate explanation there?
He's coming in to talk about it.
Save it
But 60,
for the marijuana.
What's that?
Yeah.
He's coming in to talk about it, so.
I just have one question, maybe you could ask someone in town. The building inspector step increase,
Yes.
why is it being done now and why wasn't it done during the budget process?
good question,
That's.
because we did discuss it, if I'm not mistaken.
Kevin,
The-
what had happened was, he was not satisfied with the budget. He made a special request to the Board of Selectmen to do this.
There was that new,
He disagreed with the step, so
There-
he went forward to the Board of Selectmen requesting that we move him up to step.
So did we go through the personnel committee and review it and agree to increase the step?
No,
Okay. Then
Wasn't he, I'm not sure if I understood it when I was told it this originally, wasn't he like in between a step? And
Yes.
the town administrator put, instead of going up, he put him,
instead of moving them up, everyone was supposed to fit into a
Right.
step, of one of 10. I believe Nelson fit in like a half a step, and he got moved up half a step. Nelson felt that his.
oh, he did get moved
He
up.
should have been
huh?
higher in that position. I know he's having discussions with Leon. I don't know that it got to the, I thought he was gonna take it to the personnel committee as well. But I guess my question is,
he took it straight to the Board of Selectmen. and it was
okay. So I guess,
you know there's no,
Which is what usually
So
happens. So, Mary, will this come back to the personnel committee? Will this,
No,
y-
not if it goes to
No.
town meeting.
okay,
Well,
well,
see, that was one of the, one of my arguments against it, that this opens the floodgate.
absolutely,
Everybody.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because there isn't anyone that doesn't think
Right.
Right. And did we not go through this a few years ago with the health agent at the time? And there was a lot of,
We haven't done the rest of the agenda yet.
word. People were not happy about that. So why would we want to do that
that's
again?
12 seconds.
The town administrator says.
I haven't had dinner yet. I'm
I
thinking.
think Kevin was referring.
We have candy here.
to the personnel.
Yeah.
He also wants his grade changed too.
so there's a process for this.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
there is a
is.
process.
And for that, he'll have to go to personnel.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I don't understand, I didn't want to get into this, but how can the Board of Selectmen approve this when we have defined processes and how these positions are graded?
Because some people have very soft hats. I on the other hand don't.
Ah,
So I guess my
The vote
question
was 4
is,
to 1 and she voted against it.
Yeah, you're asking the
When
wrong
is this
person.
is this next week that I won't be here?
he's on, but
he's on for the 16th.
16th, and
Which,
I
by
won't-
the way, can everybody be here on the 16th?
I cannot be here on the 16th.
I will be here on the 16th.
So I guess the
absolutely.
question is, do we have Nelson come and make the
No.
pitch for that position, or should it come from either the town administrator or Board of Selectmen? I don't know why any town employee should be coming here making an argument for.
We have had that
for
happen.
It happens with alarming regularity.
Yes.
And the issue is,
And I'm not sure it should, though.
have a process
We always
that-
say, go back to the personnel committee and, follow the process.
There is a good letter from Leon that, I'll give to Ted and he can forward it to you on his reasoning of why.
He put him where he
the
did.
building inspector.
Good, that'd be useful.
Well, yeah, that would be good to
That
see.
would be very helpful.
Okay.
Okay. And
So do we want Nelson to come on a night that that's been designated, or are you going to look for feedback from either Ted or the selectmen about what their recommendation is?
For that night, to discuss, to be able to answer any questions we have around that article. It's that easy.
Nelson should be
Oh,
here?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
It's coming from him. He's the originator.
And it'll be the 16th, because I'm not going to be here next week.
I think at this point, you probably should have him come before you. I could give you the information, but.
Well, I think the 11th, it will be taken up completely by the marijuana thing.
I'm sorry, I can't be here.
You can't be here on the 11th?
Well, you're in favor of marijuana anyway, so.
Yes,
So-
and I'm not in favor of this article. I'm going to make it very clear.
And just a reminder, the public hearing is on Tuesday. Of course, you could watch it on TV, or you could go in person, whichever you prefer. It is 9:30. We don't necessarily have to do the minutes, and we have no reserve fund
We can do them
transfers.
both. They both take just as long.
What are you talking about?
That's right, it's Thursday night, huh?
I have to
52.
get to Village Pizza before 10, or I'm not gonna get my dinner.
All right, 52, stretch code renumbering. This was evidently just a clerical error. Is there a motion to approve as written by Kevin? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's 9-0.
If you wanted to
Telling
clean
you,
them,
you all thanked me later on when we were not trying to kill the little ones at 10:30 at night when we were debating marijuana.
if you want to get minutes out in a timely fashion, I think they're done well, and I'd be willing to approve those tonight if you wanted to get it off your
Is
agenda.
that a motion to approve them as
Then-
presented?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second that, because I read them and
What-
they look fine to me.
What are you talking about now?
Approve the minutes.
Okay.
You've been approved.
There were no reserve fund transfers, which was number 2.
I guess
so
I'm a
we're-
little rusty here.
Yes, yes.
You got 2 meetings to
All right, we
rest.
have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections?
I haven't seen them, so I can't make that.
So it was
Skim them
JW
quickly.
and
At the
MH?
last meeting?
Last meeting.
Yes. You weren't here, were
You
you?
were
Karen?
absent, so your vote's easy.
Then you're
I was away.
abstaining.
If you miss every other meeting, you never have to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, what a trick. Were you here, Jared, on that one?
Yeah,
Oh, you were,
yeah.
okay.
So
It's a
Karen
participation
abstains.
activity, not one that you.
Kevin is skimming.
Jared, you weren't here either, right? Were you
I was here
Oh,
for
you
the
were here?
23rd.
Sorry.
Kicked you under the table.
Any discussion, changes? Otherwise, all in favor? So that's opposing and, or abstaining. It's okay. See, I can't even talk anymore here. 801.
Calling your order.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
Yes.
know.
Any old or new business? We're doing it all at once. We can meet on the 16th, correct?
Yes.
I said, is there any old or new, except that you
I
can't?
cannot, and I don't know what Joni is, but I'm probably not in the same spot.
No, she's going away next, she's not here
I'm
next week.
not here.
You're not the following week.
Oh,
It's the
but you're
11th.
on, you can't make the
Yes.
11th, but you're here on the
Yes.
16th.
Yes, so we have a quorum. And any other old or new business? Doing it all at once, public access? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor at 9:32? 9-0. Thank you.
Outside of the scope of the meeting, is anybody going to go to the
Enjoy your dinner.
planning board
I normally
public
eat before I
hearing?
come, but I was